Welcome back, Houston. These guys missed you over the last break. It's the Killer Bees, Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham, live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
He's Blank. I'm Branham. We are the Bees. This texter here, 7727. Great show today, guys. We should be like Costanza. If you watch Seinfeld, Costanza, as soon as he got great, that's a good joke. He's like, that's it for me. I'm done for the day. We should do that. Anytime we get a compliment, however quickly it comes in the show, we just hang it up, call it a day. And we're gonna sign off on that. We'd be done
can do it
after
at
30 minutes.
5:45.
Yeah, we are going to be carrying some. We are preempted later today for some college basketball, so we'll cut off one segment early, which is good. It means 11 segments today instead of 12. But did you see the game that we're carrying?
I did.
Michigan State, Wisconsin, the Badgers, top 25 Badgers.
Yeah,
Not
they
sure why
are.
I'm talking like a Yankee. Yeah, carrying some Big Ten basketball. How about that?
It's like football with a couple of hoops.
Does that belong on Bad Take Boulevard? They were carrying Big Ten
I
basketball.
kind
Michigan
of
State,
questioned
Wisconsin.
Joe when he told me they were doing it. I'm like, I'm not sure the rest of the world is ready to hear all that.
Apparently, we have to because of the deal with the Cowboys carrying their game. So it's all part of that deal. I don't know if I'm supposed to peel that curtain back, but better to ask for forgiveness than permission. 713-780-ESPN. This coaching carousel is crazy. I in the show yesterday, it's difficult to kind of process things. Raheem Morris was literally hired over Bill Belichick. That blows me away. And there's people saying, well, Bill Belichick's record since Tom Brady isn't very good. Bill Belichick's record since Tom Brady left him is still better than Raheem Morris's NFL head coaching record. And I'm not to say that this is I'm pounding the table for Belichick because maybe Belichick wanted to be too controlling. He wanted the control of the roster. Maybe the front office was unsure about Belichick. I get all of that. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. It's just incredibly surprising that when you have a chance to hire – a lot of people would say the greatest head coach of all time, that instead of doing that, you hire Raheem Morris, who was once your interim head coach and has a worse record than Bill Belichick does post-Tom Brady.
But I think you're right. I think that, as time goes by and we saw a lot of shortcomings in a guy that's going to probably go down as the greatest head coach in the history of the NFL in the last couple of years. I mean, he hired a defensive coordinator to be his offensive coordinator. I mean, he did a lot of things that question. And you're right. I mean, look, he's kind of like the old school guy that he learned from, Bill Parcells. He wants to control everything. And there's a general manager already in place in Atlanta, and you want a guy that's going to be able to work cohesively with a lot of guys in the organization. And it just seems like Belichick has always been the one-man band that likes to do it his way. So I can see why, for a lot of reasons, regardless of resume, that they went with a guy that they know versus a guy that what they know of is kind of scary.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was wrong. I'm just saying that it was a surprising move. Just 2 jobs left. Washington, Seattle. Apparently, Quinn has a second in-person interview today.
Yeah.
With Seattle. Don't really expect Slowick to go there. Washington still needs to make sure that it seals the deal with Ben Johnson, which I expect that they will. I expect that they will get that done. And it seems like they're waiting until they're done with the Detroit is done from their playoff run, or at least through the championship game. This texter also said Bill Belichick is waiting for that job in Dallas. Heard it here first. When people were speculating on that multiple weeks ago. This is something we talked about a little bit during a break yesterday.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any possibility you have one of these? Let's call it a top 7 team. Let's call it a Super Bowl contender. They get off to a poor start next season, 2024, whether it's the Eagles with Nick Sirianni, McCarthy with Dallas, whoever. A team of that caliber with a coach that's maybe on the hot seat. And they have high expectations. One of those teams starts 0-3. Ownership's like, it's not working with this jabroni, Nick Sirianni. They cut ties with him. Would Bill Belichick entertain the idea of taking over a really good roster, really good team that got off to an 0-3 start?
I don't think so. I don't think so midseason. I think that he is a guy, like I said, that is my way or the highway, cut and dried, and that means not just me coming in and having to learn to work with others that I didn't choose. He's at a point in his career where he chooses just about everybody. I mean, he chose his 2 sons to be on his staff, but he chooses his heir apparent in some cases. He chooses guys that, he knows that have been through his system, that have played for him, or that he trusts across the board. And I just don't think, because we know how there's been that level of secrecy and that keep it internal in the family kind of mentality with him and the Patriots. I just think that he only takes a job that he starts in the off season and is able to build and construct his entire staff and roster.
Yeah, that's I hear you on that as well. But as much as he wants to chase the record, if it's a roster that he really likes and they give him a multi-year deal, I could see him doing it.
See, that's part of it because I think you're right. I think the biggest thing is because the discussion we always face, other than him chasing the all-time wins, is was it Brady? Was it Belichick? Right? And Brady showed that when he got away from Belichick, he won one. So now Belichick without Brady has not had very much success. So if he's going to take another job, believe you me, he's eyeing it going, I need at least a chance to compete for one more to kind of, for my own sake and for everybody else's sake, kind of solidify that too.
Yeah.
But I think the jobs next year or the potential jobs that could open up next year for him are way better in terms of win right away than the ones that were open this year.
It could be an Eagles 0-3. Hey, take over. We'll give you a 5-year deal. I think you would entertain
But
that.
I think he'd struggle hard with trying to work with others that he maybe doesn't know and didn't hire.
Yeah,
because his
And
personality.
that's the rumor in Atlanta. The rumors in Atlanta is that they were concerned about the staff. They were concerned about him looking at the tree and not the forest. Worried about the long-term gain of Atlanta. Some of the front office was a little unsure because apparently Arthur Blank was all in on Belichick, but then everybody else in the organization was not. Which I give credit for Arthur Blank to kind of listen to his people,
I agree.
people that he trusts, and hey, I believe you. It's not the thing that I want, but I trust your opinion. Let's go with your opinion. Now, I probably wouldn't have done it for him.
Yeah, I don't think Jerry Jones would do that.
No, absolutely not. Jerry Jones wouldn't listen at all. He wouldn't even ask the question.
And I think the other thing is when you think about jobs that next year possibly versus this year, you mentioned the Eagles. I think that's a legit chance there. I think Buffalo, Dallas, and maybe even Miami possibly, but maybe.
I think that's
I think
a longer
the Jets,
shot, but yeah.
I think if Rodgers falters at all or they have any other issues, I think Salah already was being discussed a little bit, but because they went all in on Rodgers, if that thing starts going sideways, and he knows that division very well in the Buffalo and New York case, there's going to be some pretty attractive jobs for him.
I think he needs to stay relevant in this year, though. I think
he's not a broadcast and he's not a very friendly guy. That's going to be a tough sell.
But if he just goes away for a year, I think it diminishes his viability as a candidate. I think he has
I can see that.
Even if it's every few weeks where he does a halftime show, I think he needs to stay relevant. Maybe just hang out with Taylor Swift. She makes everybody relevant.
You know where he really got a lot of people to that always didn't disliked him to jump on board was that NFL Top 100 when they brought him in the studio and he showed his knowledge in the history and some of the sidebars that people didn't know, and they're like, damn, Bill's actually, he can be personable.
He's pretty good on that Telestrator thing too. For their team website, they do it with Scott Zolak, I think.
Yeah, the old
ex-quarterback. He'll go through the film with him, and it's like, dang, you're pretty sharp. It could be something as simple as that, because you're right, he doesn't have a great personality.
No.
He's not made for TV. But if he can do those little, they're kind of bits. If he can have a one segment, this is the Telestrator of the week, kind of like Jaws used to do on ESPN Film or ESPN. That would, I think, he has to be in the public light though. He has to stay in the football light. Same thing with Vrabel, I think.
I'll tell you
Vrabel less than Belichick though, because
sure.
he's younger.
Yeah, and he's also, he's relevant enough in the fact that he's kind of done it in today's NFL with a team and a roster that maybe wasn't as set as people thought, and he had success. I think Vrabel will resurface again pretty quickly. The one that got me on Belichick that really kind of made me at least wake up to the fact that he's actually not like Attila the Hun kind of a bad dude was NFL Films did a 2 or 3 part documentary on the entire life of Bill Belichick. And when he's not in the football and he's got a boat and he goes fishing and he and his wife do this and, and some of the other things they were doing where he's laughing and you're going, that's the same guy that goes, I'm on to Buffalo. I mean, it was crazy.
713-780-ESPN HRMP listener line. What's been the craziest thing to you in this coaching carousel? Also, D'Amico Ryans was hired by the Texans in the last carousel. Where would D'Amico stack up in this carousel? 713-780-3776. Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Hey, before we go to the break, tell you about the good people at MyBookie. Big weekend. We know it. Big games. They are on the docket, and you want to make them even bigger. You go to mybookie.ag, and you can put some money down, and now you got a chance to win some coin, and those games become even more relevant, more exciting, and a bigger opportunity for a payoff. We got those NFL playoffs. You got all the NBA games, college basketball, golf, soccer, hockey, you name it. If it's a live sport going on and it's professional or college, you're probably going to be able to bet on it at mybookie.ag. And mybookie.ag is more than just a sports book. Real-life Vegas experiences from the comfort of your own home. Live dealers standing by, poker, blackjack, roulette. They're all available to you. All there while you're on the site at mybookie.ag. And if you want to click on some bonuses or get some bonuses that can make your betting enjoyment even better, All you got to do is remember our promo code BET975. Now, when you go to mybookie.ag and either sign up for the first time or reload your account, if you use that promo code BET975, you can double what you put into your account from $50 to $1,000. That's right. Put $100 in. Suddenly, there's $200 in your account. More money to bet with means more games that you can actually have a chance to win with. Start playing today. Mybookie.ag. Use our promo code BET975. Do what I always tell you to do. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with the only place I tell you to do it, mybookie.ag.
You're back where you belong, in the Veritex Community Bank Studios with the Killer Bees, who won't sting you unless provoked. Here's Joel and Jeremy.
Dizzle on the Twitter. If you're Belichick, do you wear your rings to the interview?
No.
Yeah.
Everybody who everybody that's interviewing you already knows what you've done. It's what you're going to do that is most important to them.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. 9317, just a thought, but is Belichick being blackballed by all the other NFL owners because of Spygate, and they feel like he got away with cheating?
I'm not going to go that far. I think there's a lot of owners that are old school, big-time owners that are enamored with what he's done and his name and the success that he's had and winning at all costs. I don't think that that's the case, though. I think that there's a good number of people in the NFL, owners and otherwise, that really despise what he did and how he did it.
I have a general take when it comes to the NFL that they don't care about scandal. The NFL doesn't care about scandal. Like, players that have been suspended for PEDs in the NFL, do we look back at them and their career and be like, oh, that career's stained? Like Julian Edelman missed 4 games, I think, for PEDs once. So we look at, his career was stained. He wasn't good. Brian Cushing's a local guy. Dwayne Brown had the weird one with the meat in Mexico. But I couldn't sit here and tell you the guy, like I mentioned a couple there, but there's so many others that have been suspended for performance-enhancing drugs, and we just, overlook it. Don't even remember who they were. You can't do that in baseball. Same thing with the Deflategate. Like, Deflategate was kind of like, we joke about it. Oh, Brady, you're so silly. You're still the greatest quarterback ever. Altuve never used the signs. And, well, we're diminishing him. He's not going to be any good. Same thing with the steroid era in baseball. Like, those guys aren't voted into the Hall of Fame. Well, Bonds, greatest player ever. You use steroids. You're not going to be voted into the Hall of Fame. Brady broke the rules. He was suspended 4 games. He's still the GOAT. We celebrate him. What is the other?
But from that perspective, though, Jeremy,
yeah.
I think that, like I said, because of the way it went down, I don't think Jim Irsay, if he was of sound mind and body, I don't think Jim Irsay would ever hire Bill Belichick.
I don't know, man.
He's got the red ass for what they went through. I think that there are guys that know the stuff that they've pulled over the years and some of the things that he's done and the way that they've won. And there are guys, owners and other people in the NFL that said, yeah, that's fine and dandy. There's nothing we can do about it, but I never want him, coaching my team, or I never want him a part of my organization. I think there's general managers that could feel that way. I know there are owners that do.
I mean, he's pretty highly respected. Like, NFL scandal is not treated the same as Major League Baseball scandal at all.
But a lot of it, too, in the conversations that I've had over the years with guys, too, when I say, if you know this, if you're adamant that you know this, and a lot of guys have come, in casual conversations to have brought things to the table where I just casually just said, look, it's none of my business, but if you know this stuff, why wouldn't you report it? And they said because they don't want to take money out of their pocket. They don't want to stain the logo of the NFL, the reputation, like the scandal did with the NBA with officiating and all those kind of things. But I think that there's still going to be guys that despise if they lost to the Patriots over the years, good,
sure.
bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, I mean they're going to be bitter about it. They're going to be jaded. Like even Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels cheated. He got another head coaching job again. So we don't publicly scorn all of these NFL players that PD did, like Bountygate, Deflategate, all of these things, like we do with baseball. Like baseball is this holier than thou. Don't mess with the national pastime. Whereas football is like, the heck with it. Let's just pound your brain in. If we have to juice to the gills, we juice to the gills.
Yeah, I mean, because but also part of that is too, I don't think anybody ever associated steroids with baseball or the need to get all jacked up in order to play baseball like they do for football.
Yeah, it's definitely more gonna get you, gonna take your head off. Linebackers love to kill quarterbacks. D'Amico Ryans was hired by the Texans last year. Where would you stack him up with the carousel this year? If D'Amico was in the new coaching hire class of this season, where would he rank amongst the ones that have been hired this year?
Boy, I think that are we saying that?
What's your favorite hire? Like, let's start there. What's your favorite hire of this class? Raheem Morris to Atlanta, Canales to Carolina, Antonio Pierce stays on board in Vegas, Harbaugh goes to the Chargers, Mayo to the Patriots. Feels like forever ago he was hired.
Yeah.
Brian Callahan to the Titans. I guess let's just assume Ben Johnson goes to Washington, and you can pick Vrabel or Quinn in Seattle.
Quinn, yeah. Look, I think it's Harbaugh. It's the sexiest story. It's the biggest pick. He's been enamored with Herbert for quite a while, and the fact is he gets coming off the national championship, he gets to go to the city of Los Angeles, and he gets a franchise quarterback in waiting and some weapons to work with where he's got a chance to win. So I think that, to me, it comes down to Harbaugh and D'Amico. But my question to you would have been, is D'Amico still the defensive coordinator of the Niners and still in the playoffs if he passed this year and he's being interviewed for jobs? Because if he's still having success and he's still, taking the Niners to the NFC Championship game, I think he's going to carry some cachet again this season to where I would put him as probably 1B to Harbaugh in terms of overall with the sexiness, the success, and all the things that Harbaugh's done versus a guy that's the big up-and-comer that continues to do his job really well in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that things would really slip in San Francisco. They were the third best defense this year. If they had D'Amico back, I don't think they would be worse than third. Might even be a little bit better. I have a Harbaugh bias. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of Harbaugh. I know he had some really good success in the NFL. His cheese factor is hard for me to take seriously. And some players love him, I guess. But wearing cleats on the football field as a head coach is weird to me. His quirks that he has, where he's like, talk to the player, is always really like he rubs me the wrong way. I'll completely admit it. He rubs me the wrong way.
And it's easy to see. It's easy too because he makes it so easy for you because he can be crotchety and cranky and his khakis and all the different things that he does that, just piss people off. The fact is that he wins, because it actually bothered me when they started putting him in the same conversation as Jimmy Johnson and Pete Carroll and all these guys that have won. They're assuming that he's going to have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl, but he's been to a Super Bowl, won a natty, and everybody's like, he's in that conversation. Switzer, and I'm going, I just don't see him that way.
Yeah.
But it's also probably because I don't want to see him that way.
I concede that he is the sexiest name that will be.
Yeah.
I think he's sexier than Ben Johnson too. Name.
Yep, I agree.
Let's be very clear. Pause. I think Ben Johnson's the best one though. And if D'Amico, like if you just put the Houston Texans in this coaching carousel, they hired D'Amico Ryans in this coaching carousel, I would like it more than the Jim Harbaugh hire, again, because I have a bias against Jim Harbaugh. I know that I'm speaking in the minority here. I'll concede that. But I would put Ben Johnson, DeMeco Ryans as the best hires, and Jim Harbaugh's name, you can throw him into that top tier. So that's where I would have DeMeco ranked, assuming that Ben Johnson gets the Washington job. I would say that those would be the best 3 hires. Harbaugh, trying to eliminate my bias with L.A., DeMeco in Houston if we're putting them in this year's coaching carousel, and I would throw Ben Johnson because I believe that Ben Johnson's going to be really good.
I agree, but I think that also when we start doing this like we've done in the past when we were actually doing it with more personal interest in it with the Texans, the fit matters too, right? So you're looking for an offensive-minded coach to kind of get Justin Herbert where he needs to go and get this team away from a defensive-minded coach that had all kinds of issues in a city like Los Angeles where you're competing with the Rams day in, day out and playing second fiddle, and you need splashy name as well as what you need for your football team to kind of take it where it needs to go. And then you go from there. I think that DeMeco, we knew was a defensive-minded coach, and you and I had this conversation back and forth about if they're going to get a franchise quarterback, do you need an offensive-minded head coach? Or we even said, or you run the risk of having an offensive coordinator, and if they have success, he's going to be interviewed to go, and here we are. But at the same time, that's why I'm saying every situation matters. I don't think that the Chargers want or need another defensive-minded head coach. They need to right the ship with Justin Herbert in the offense, and I think they kind of ignored it when they hired Staley.
You know, I think that watching DeMeco in year one, though, that I've kind of changed my tune when it comes to like offensive-minded, defensive-minded. I after watching DeMeco and then just like, you know, have maybe being a little bit more mature now after a year, I want a leader. Like I want a guy who can come in, because I don't think DeMeco was perfect as a defensive play caller this year. I don't think DeMeco was perfect as a game manager this year. In fact, I think he had some flaws, and I'll give him the grace that it's his first year and that he'll get better, and everything that he has shown you in the course of his life in football tells you that he's willing to like learn and improve, and he's always working at it. So I believe that he'll get better. Defensively, I think that there's probably a lack of personnel that we're probably not really willing to give that credit to him, but he was far from like a perfect head coach. Where I think that he made his biggest stride in this organization was as a leader. Like, look at the culture from this year to last year, the year before, and how quickly he turned the tide there. Because offensive play callers are going to fail. Like, it's just going to happen. Just because you're an offensive wizard doesn't mean you're going to have success. McDaniels is an offensive wizard, right? And he's failed in 2 different spots because his leadership is terrible. Look what the Raiders did going to Antonio Pierce, and look how he changed the culture in a few weeks. So I think that we devalue leadership when we talk about the NFL head coaching carousel, and the reason that we do that is because we don't know how they are as leaders. We can look to see where an offense ranks. Oh, Ben Johnson, top 5 last 2 years. He must be a really good head coach. Oh, DeMeco led the top-rated defense in the NFL. He must be a really good head coach. When I think that the most important attribute from a head coach is leadership.
Well, and not only leadership, Jeremy, but it's management too, right? Because part of being a great manager is hiring someone to do the job and letting them do the job. We just got done talking about Belichick, who thought he was so smart he could hire whoever he wanted and throw a defensive coordinator into the offensive coordinator's job, and everything was going to just work out, and it wasn't going to work out, and that's just a massive ego. The fact that DeMeco knows what he knows and then hired someone that knows what he doesn't and then stayed out of the way in order for Bobby Slowick to do what he did shows you that he not only is a leader, but he has great management skills and managerial skills, because a lot of guys would kind of hinder their employees instead of helping them, and they would butt in, and DeMeco didn't seem to do that.
I don't like the Harbaughs. John Harbaugh is fantastic. Fantastic.
Oh, he's a great
fantastic head coach. He doesn't call offensive defensive plays, but he has that management skill. He has that leadership skill, and I'll take that, like Mike Tomlin, the same way. I'll take that over anything. Would he be above DeMeco? If Belichick got hired in Atlanta, Vrabel gets hired in Seattle, would you have had DeMeco's hire above those 2 guys?
Yeah.
I would too. Like
I would. At this point in Belichick's career, for sure. And I honestly think Vrabel needs a year off.
I think Vrabel's a little overrated.
I think that, he had issues with the general manager late. I think, to your point, he overachieved a little bit early. But I think that you saw a lot of the real Mike Vrabel in the last year and a half, because of the fact that he didn't have primetime Derrick Henry and a stout, stacked defense because of the veterans they had. And I think that he probably needs a year off, or he needs to kind of go somewhere where early on he can re-elevate his star.
His last 2.5 years are abysmal. Like, if you're looking at just his last 2.5 years, he wouldn't be hired. He was not hired. Same thing with Belichick. Like, the allure of Belichick is pre-last 3 to 5 years. And I don't want to hire a guy because of their resume greater than 5 years ago. 713-780-ESPN HRP listener line, 713-780-3776. Speaking of leaders, speaking of coaches, we think that Ime Udoka is doing an admirable job, a good job. Alpi Shingun was on the podcast with JJ Redick. What's it called? I don't know it off the top of my head. But a really good podcast with Redick. He had some.
It's called The Old Man and the Three.
There you go.
Who's the old man?
I guess JJ. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because he's now the old man.
I thought he would be
shot
and the three.
Well, it's only him on the
He's
podcast
not
and
old.
guests.
Well, he's got like correspondents. They may be the three.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's a play on words. I like that. I like a little creativity. Anyways, Alpi was on with Redick, had some really interesting things to say, including he likes tough coaching. Who have we noticed are Ime guys that like that tough coaching? It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Hey, before we go to the break, tell you about the people that give you the opportunity to get Daisy Dips. Daisy, is a name that's just absolutely synonymous with sour cream. Do a dollop of Daisy on your favorite baked potato. It gets better when you get that and all the fully loaded stuff that goes with it. Daisy's always been known for sour cream, but Daisy uses that sour cream in their dips, and their dips are available for you at the grocery store, saving you time and allowing you to entertain your guests even better when you're watching the games this weekend or having people over to the house. Because of the fact that you don't have to sit there in the kitchen and mix the sour cream with the soup mix and the spices and to try to get it just right. All you got to do is go to your grocery store while you're doing the grocery shopping for what you're going to serve when the people come over. Grab yourself a tub of the French onion, grab yourself a tub of the ranch, and the next thing you know, your pizza's better, and your wings are better, and your veggie dip and chips are better, all because you're serving the Daisy Dips. It's not very difficult to go get, and it makes you look like a winner no matter how the game turns out. Go to your grocery store today and grab yourself a couple of tubs of Daisy Dips.
Informed opinions are oftentimes presented here. You're locked in with the Killer Bees on 97.5 and 92.5. Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Joel Blank and Jeremy Branham.
2912, to your point, Vrabel was not a very good coordinator in Houston. He didn't have a good year. There were a lot of injuries that year. I would say that Vrabel's better leader, manager than he is defensive play caller. 2769, tough coaches. Chuck Daly? I don't you would know more about that than I would.
I mean, he was a popular coach. I mean, with the Bad Boys in Detroit, he was a hard ass.
Was he?
Yeah, but then obviously you got to change your tune when you're coaching the Dream Team. But they picked him to coach the Dream Team for a reason, because even the biggest egos on the planet would listen to him.
Yeah. The which is it? It's not the Redeem Team. There's that documentary on the 92.
92 was the original Dream Team.
Yeah, I can't remember where the documentary aired, but they had a lot of Chuck Daly, Michael Jordan interactions. That was awesome.
You're talking about the one that NBA Films did?
Maybe.
It's really well done.
Yeah.
And that is when they even kind of got into and broke down the whole reason that Jordan, who didn't want to actually come out and say he didn't want Isaiah on the team. But that was the biggest issue, was Chuck coached him and loved him. But, you know, at a certain point in your career, you got to say, hey, do I want to coach the greatest team ever assembled? Or do I want to stay so loyal to Isaiah that I can't do it?
Yeah, it was that was a really good doc. I don't remember the name of it, but just to have the Chuck Daly and the Bad Boy Pistons and all the history, and then like he and Jordan became like friends like that.
Yep.
Alpi Şengün having a really good year. Many people saying he should be an all-star, which like I think he's playing at an all-star level. I don't know the Western Conference and like who's playing well to say if like Alpi didn't make it, like who's snubbed, like who should be getting in over. I'm not ready to have that conversation. But Alpi was on that podcast with JJ Redick. It aired yesterday. They dropped it yesterday, and Alpi talked about how much he loves being coached by Ime Udoka.
Do you feel like he's hard on you?
Yeah, but I love it.
You love it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot. And I mean, where I grew up, I mean, in Europe,
It's normal.
it's like, yeah, still Ime is so hard on me, but I can say there's nothing, you know.
Alpi
like,
talks really
I mean,
fast.
Ime is not cursing them. Like, I mean, he cursed, but not that bad, you know. In Turkey, that was like bad voices, cursing, screaming, like.
That's
you know,
every coach you played for in Turkey, pretty
yeah,
much.
Pretty much, yeah. When I was 18, I was already grew up, so I wasn't like, you know.
It didn't affect you at
Yeah,
that
it didn't
point.
affect
There
that
you
point.
go.
But when
There's
I
Alpi
mean, when I
Şengün
was
You want to try to do that as
saying
fast as you can? Because I'm going to tell you right now that what I really think is I'm trying to listen to Alpi as fast as I can.
Yeah, I think that was on 2x speed. But you get the gist there. I mean, you could understand. And Alpi's a slow talker. It was a minute clip. We got to play it fast. You know, time's of the essence. He talked about how much he likes that coaching. And we talk about Jalen Green, and people are going to bring Jalen Green into this conversation as well. It's kind of the conversation we were having yesterday, how players are conditioned nowadays. Alpi Şengün was saying there in Turkey, he was raised with coaches who were going to dog cuss him the entire practice. And it was intense, it was hard, but that was his upbringing. That's what he was conditioned by. That's what he knew. So he's used to it. He's used to what Ime Udoka is going to bring to the table. In fact, Ime Udoka probably can't stack up to those, youth level coaches in Turkey. A guy like Jalen Green and other guys like him, because I think Jabari's a guy that accepts the
you
coaches
hit the
too.
two that I was going to go to first.
But he also went to Bruce Pearl at Auburn. You know what I mean? So like he wasn't an AAU guy like Jalen Green who went to the he went to the G League. He went
no,
straight
it's
to
not
the
G League. It's
Overtime
it's
Elite.
Overtime Elite.
No, I think he went to the G League. I thought Jalen went to the G League. Amin went to the Overtime Elite.
Okay.
I could be wrong on Jalen, but I'm like 60% sure.
Okay.
Regardless, the point's still the same. Where Jalen Green's never had tough coaching.
Right.
Like Jalen Green's been taught up on the AAU circuit and being coddled and what can we do for you and how much do you need and we love you so much. He's never felt the tough coaching until now. And it's not a knock on Jalen Green because there's a lot of players like him as well. But I think the reason that Alpi's taken to it so quickly is because he's used to it. He's conditioned to it. Whereas Jalen Green has never seen it in his life, and I think we need to have a little bit of patience here. My dad's is a golf instructor. He always talks about how golf instruction with guys who've played the game forever and you're trying to change their swing, it's like trying to mold hard clay. Whereas somebody who's never played, it's like molding really soft clay.
Right.
Like it's easy to do.
Because you don't have bad habits or you're not conditioned a certain way. Yeah.
Alpi is soft clay. Jalen Green's hard clay, and that's okay. Like Jalen might figure it out in 2 years, and it might click for him. Whereas Alpi already has clicked. But that's the biggest takeaway I had from hearing Alpi here was that he's conditioned to this. He took to Ime's coaching like a fish out of water. And then it's like, okay, well, Jalen didn't have Turkish coaches in youth league. He had people that were giving him probably, candied. That's a weird thing to say. He had people that were coddling him along the way.
Well, and here's the thing, too, because I've told people for years the reason why they say, well, why are foreign players so far advanced than American players, especially when they get in the league and they get in the draft? It's because they get that hard coaching from an early age, and half their day is education, half their day is basketball. And when it's basketball, it's not one-on-one isolation. It's fundamentals. It's learning how to play both ends of the floor. It's learning how to do a lot of things that he wasn't getting, because I remember I referenced when you and I were talking early in the season when they said to Alpi, what's the biggest difference in the turnaround in last year to this year? And he said, coaching, because he's actually getting some. And because Silas just basically threw the ball out there and just said, hey, they'll get it, and the more experience they get in the league, they're going to be able to adapt. You're right in the fact that there's, Kelvin is the kind of guy at U of H that says, I don't want a guy that can't be coached hard at U of H, because he knows that that's a certain style that he coaches with. But if you listen to him and you can take that, you can get a lot better and you can be a part of some special things. But there are guys that just aren't conditioned in that mentality. And a lot of the guys that come up now playing AAU ball and get coddled their whole life and just given the basketball and get out of the way, they only know one thing, which is it's their way or the highway, and they're the star, and everybody has to cater to them. and they don't understand what it's like to go into a system like Duke and have to play team basketball, or a system. But even with the Bruce Pearl example, if this was Bruce Pearl in years past, sure. But because Bruce Pearl needs that bonus baby, big time top 5 recruit on his team, he's probably going to coach him a little differently than he did in the past. I think Bruce Pearl changed. I think he's changed a lot.
I mean, I've never been in a Pearl practice, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But there's coaches in college basketball that will not change.
I agree with that, too.
They will not change, and the reason they will not change is because they know if they do change, then they're not going to be as good. And they're willing to sacrifice, perhaps, a prima donna who's the number 1 prospect in the country for the number 28 prospect in the country who's going to play his tail off within the system that you want him to play. So, like, Alpe's doing that. I think that Jalen Green wants to do that. I think it's difficult for him to really know how to do that because he wasn't conditioned that way. Alpe was. I would, 713-780 ESPN, moving the conversation to who on this roster are Ime Udoka guys. We mentioned a couple. Alpe absolutely is. And I think that Alpe, you can tell it more on the defensive end than the offensive end.
Sure.
Like, he's always been super skilled offensively, but look where he's at defensively now versus a year ago. People thought you could never have him on the floor. He was so poor defensively. Now, part of that's because Ime Udoka's coaching staff is good, and they take him out of his weaknesses defensively, but it is also the effort that is there and his desire and mentality, all of that. Jabari, I would put Jabari as being an Ime guy that likes the toughness, that likes to be coached hard. Jabari, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's getting there, but I think he was another one that I think was coddled quite a bit along the way. So I think it was, I don't want to say it was a harsh reality. It was an adjustment for him more than it's maybe been more of a harsh reality for Jalen. I think he's gotten better, and the one time that he was benched and he accepted it and he went along with it, as we were in a couple weeks into the season, that showed me that he was turning the corner. He was getting it, but I thought at the start of the season it was an adjustment for him too.
See, I think he's taken to it. I think that he plays with that mentality of being tough, and I think I noticed it on his rebounding. Like, he's become a better rebounder as of late. Tari Eason, certainly,
for sure,
that guy. Tari Eason was that guy before Ime ever walked in the room.
No doubt. Tari Eason's a guy that just understands. He's got a little toughness to him, and you kind of look at him going, if he's going to do all the dirty work, that's a guy that knows. And I think a lot of it too is evident when you see after the initial huddles at timeouts when Udoka does a little extra coaching, and a lot of times he's kind of passionate or he's screaming or yelling. The guys that are still hyper-focused, dialed in, nodding their head and interacting with him, you know that they're already bought in, and that's exactly how they want to be coached. Tari's one of those guys in almost every huddle.
Yeah, Dylan Brooks.
For sure.
I think that's why
until
recently. That guy.
Until recently. He got benched the other night.
Well, no one likes being benched.
No, but and again, because he's got the big money now. So now I think that it changes your attitude a little bit. That I think that maybe he didn't expect that he would be sat down like Jalen and Jabari and some of the other guys. And I think he got a little harsh reality that Udoka's not – he doesn't care how much you make. If you're not doing what he wants you to do, he'll sit you down.
Yeah, I was wondering if he might end up on the injury report today, but he didn't. So
with injured feelings?
Well, I mean, I was thinking that maybe there was like a sprained ankle that kept him out of the game, but no, he was flat out benched.
There was sprained something else.
He was flat out benched. Fred VanVleet.
He's definitely a guy that can take the coaching.
Yeah, he can take the coaching. And then the anybody else comes to mind? Jeff Green's a veteran. He's going to take any.
I'll tell you the one that's
coaching.
still kind of up for grabs is Amen.
Yeah,
because Amen again was a guy that got coddled, and because of the star power, everybody was giving him the ball, getting out of the way, and seeing how far he could go because they knew he was going to be a top pick. And I think that it's not going to be decided in the first year, but I think early on, Cam for sure, but he's adjusted, and Amen is still adjusting to where this is the first time in both those guys' careers where they are going to face scrutiny and tough love from their coach.
And I feel like Cam, it was kind of a wake-up call for him. Now, he did go to Villanova, but he didn't get –
he didn't play for Jay, though.
Exactly. He didn't play – like, it would have helped him, I think, to play for Jay.
For sure.
I think he had, like, a rude awakening. Like, man. But I think he's adjusted nicely.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he turned the corner.
Yeah.
Early on, that's why they sent him down, because he wasn't playing defense. He wasn't he wasn't understanding it's not my way or the highway, and I'm not the superstar anymore. I'm just a cog in the wheel or a spoke in the wheel. And when he came back from the G League after he got some seasoning from Kevin Burleson, who's got NBA experience, and came back up, he had a different understanding, and he became a guy that was getting in the rotation.
Amen has always been a guy who strikes me as, like, he wants the tough coaching. Like, even though he went the overtime elite route, he has kind of like an old basketball soul to me, like high basketball IQ, loves the game. I've never once noticed like diva, prima donna.
No. Yeah.
Characteristics.
The stories
within.
you hear too about being a gym rat.
Yeah.
Can't stay out of the gym. They got to try and turn the lights off and take the keys away from him. When the gym is locked, he's going to the playground, doing it on the asphalt, to where he's loves a guy that loves the game, that's a student of the game. It's like CJ with the playbook in football.
Mm-hmm.
If you're that dedicated to it, then you know that if you're dealing with someone that knows the game probably better than you want to be a sponge.
Do you think Jalen Green can get there? And what is the timeline for it?
I think it's still somewhat up for grabs. Do I think he can? Yes. Do I think he will? That's a different story, because I think that it's going to take the intestinal fortitude to say, hey, look, I might not feel like I agree with this. I might not see the big picture early on. But if I don't try it, then I don't know what it can do for me. That might hurt me more than it hurts my team.
Yeah, see, I think it's in play. He's got a long way to go. He's got a long way to go. I don't think that it's like desire. I think he would like to get there, but he's got to change so many things about him. And a lot of it's like just feel too, because Ime talks about him a lot in the sense of like knowing when to make the right basketball play. And you can kind of see it at times with Jalen that it's kind of predetermined. How many times you see him go to the rim and it's like, okay, you should probably be passing the ball here, but still tries to challenge and he gets stuffed, or he makes a terrible attempt at the basket, where he should probably be looking to pass it off to the cutter and have an easy layup. He's not really good with having feel of making the right basketball
No doubt,
play.
because you know where he really, like you kind of mentioned it, but you know where you can really see it is he's so gifted basketball-wise. He takes off before knowing where he's going. But he jumps so high that he can adjust midair, and in a lot of times the play works out, whether he does score or late a guy commits and he sees a guy for a pass.
Yep.
But it's not pre-thinking going, okay, I'm going to come in the lane, two guys are going to come at me, I got a shooter and a kick in the corner. He goes up and then decides. He's just so freakishly athletic that he can hang longer than anybody to find an end result that works.
You know where else you see it? You see it on his passes. Like how many like good players who have feel for the game have a bunch of passes deflected? Not many. How many passes do you see Jalen Green get deflected?
A lot.
A ton.
You know what I was thinking the other night when Alpi waited for that backdoor cut and made that touch pass, skipped it out in
Great
front.
play.
Beautiful. And I said, flip the script. Do you ever think that Jalen Green could throw that same pass to anybody else? I really don't.
You mean he could only throw it to Alpi?
No, I think Alpi making that pass, the court vision, and then being able to see it and throw it and think it through. I think Jalen's the kind of guy that couldn't make that pass because he hesitates a lot when it's not me doing what I do, which is scoring.
And I think it's that thin of a line.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have that just a fraction of a second of hesitation, that's the difference between being a really good player and a player with really
when they
good
say
potential.
a quarterback's got to let it rip.
Yep.
Don't think about it, let it rip. That's what we're talking about with Jalen Green.
713-780-ESPN. Mock draft season. Who do you want the Texans to draft? Who does this mock drafter have for the Texans? And we'll put our feet into Nick Casario's tiny shoes and tell you what we would do. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5, ESPN 92.5.
It's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy this next bit of brilliance with Joel and Jeremy. Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's the Killer Bees.
He's Blank, I'm Branham. We are the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN at 92.5. 713-780-ESPN. I saw this tweet. Tyreek Hill now admits a petition for divorce was filed. He claims that a bad word bonehead who works for him filed the paperwork without a green light. What? Like,
Hey, I'm working on doing this. I'm working on leaving my wife. Go get the paperwork together for me, but don't turn it in.
yeah, well, I guess he wanted him to sit on it. So, like, it was certainly like a thought in his mind that it's something that's about to happen. It's coming down the pike. But I guess that he wanted to wait for a little bit. I don't know. Tyreek Hill is really, really good. I'm a little worried that Tyreek Hill might end up like Antonio Brown.
Oh, I see it.
Little worried. that he might end up
There
like
are
Antonio Brown.
signs. There are signs that you are not wrong.
Yeah, it's I mean,
I have had those same thoughts going, yeah, this one could end badly.
keep Vontez Burfict away from Tyreek Hill. Like there's a lot of drama in the life of Tyreek
I
Hill.
don't think any hit by Vontez Burfict would have made a difference in Antonio Brown.
He's the one that hit Brown, right, over the middle?
several times.
A lot of people are saying that's where he got his CTE, which I don't think that's how you get CTE. But
I think it's overtime multiples.
right.
But I mean, I think Burfict got him more than once.
yeah, but there was one really like over the middle.
there's no
There was
doubt.
one ear hole
Yeah.
that like concussed him, and he
Yep.
missed a considerable amount of time. And people always blame Antonio Brown's antics
That
on
locker room,
Vontez Burfict.
You know, you think about that too. Tomlin to survive all that he survived and still had the success every single year. Because you had Le'Veon Bell, who was a little bit off, too, in terms of the way he thought, the things he did, and how he acted.
But how much did you hear from them when they were in Pittsburgh?
Well, remember,
None.
it started because AB was filming the post-game
That's- yeah.
speeches
But then-
in the locker room.
But I think they got rid of him that offseason. Like, I think that was going on in his
Maybe.
final year.
Yeah,
and then
maybe.
Le'Veon Bell's, like, antics started whenever his contract. And then, like, I would say the biggest problem child in Pittsburgh during Tomlin's time was actually Roethlisberger.
I mean, at the end, I think, is when Ben really started just spewing.
Well,
you
it
know-
was more about the stuff he was doing away from the field.
Well, that too. Yeah, for sure. I kind of saw a lot of that kind of almost a little bit secondhand, but yeah,
Hold on.
we were in Tahoe a couple times. I've told this story. We were in
okay.
Tahoe a couple times for that golf tournament where he and his buddies were basically just thinking that they were invincible and that, you know, the women that were there and anything they wanted to do. And we were all just like, whoa, this dude just got in the league.
There's a lot of people that act that way, though. Like, he's not the
No
only
doubt.
one.
Oh, no doubt. I've seen it a lot. But but at the same time, when you think about it from a Pittsburgh perspective, I think the guys that really kind of went off were Bell, Brown, and then Ben he kept it within the system for the most part. Maybe he did it behind closed doors, but at the end, when he just started ripping what he never had and what they didn't do for me and things like that.
All right, mock draft season. It's here. Having these, I'm doing these mocks every day. I got criticized for another mock today, which the joke's on you. This one's from CBS Sports. It's Josh Edwards. He has this. He has Caleb Williams go number 1. It's very similar to the first 4 picks that we've been seeing. Now he does have Jaden Daniels going number 2 to Washington. So Drake May falls to number, which is the same as Kuiper. But Drake May falls to number 3 to New England. Marvin Harrison's the pick at number 4. Arizona has to be feeling pretty good about that number 4 pick. You think there's any chance that Harrison goes top 3?
It depends on if someone trades up.
Like, I'm wondering if like going quarterback.
See, no, you know
quarterback.
why? Because if everybody assumes that the top, I think, you know what? I think it depends a lot too on what the Bears do. Because if the Bears don't take Caleb,
But anybody who's trading up to 1's
Fields.
going for a quarterback.
Yeah, because but I'm saying, but if the Bears stick and stay,
Yeah.
and they're not trading Fields,
I don't think they stick and stay and take Harrison at 1. I think there's a better chance of like Harrison going 3rd to like New England and the Patriots try to do like
I can't see New
I really
England
don't either.
trying to get off on the right foot, not going quarterback.
It seems like Arizona can just hang out and take Harrison at 4. It seems like that's where the highest that Marvin Harrison can be picked. Brock Bowers 5th to the Chargers. Malik Neighbors number 6 to the Giants. Joe Alt, Titans need offensive line help. He goes to the Titans. Dallas Turner, first defensive player off the board. Number 8 to Atlanta. Jared Verse. This is as high as I've seen Jared Verse. Number 9 to Chicago. And then Alumawa Fashunu the offensive tackle. Just say it with conviction.
Washington?
Going to the Penn State.
Oh, Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State. Going to the Jets because they need some offensive line help as
Would
well.
do they?
All right, so fast forward, quarterbacks along the way. J.J. McCarthy, number 13 to the Raiders. That would be interesting.
Ooh, that seems high.
And that's it for quarterbacks until the Texans are on the board. So the Texans are on the board, and this mock has the Texans going with Chop Robinson, the defensive end from Penn State, 6'3", 254-pound behemoth. You hear the name Chop Robinson, defensive end Penn State. What comes into mind, and what is the scenario that has to play out before the draft for Chop
Well, it's pretty
Robinson
easy.
to be
That
the
means
pick?
John Grenard's moving on. Either they've already told him we're not going to the level that you are looking for financially and or years, or John Grenard's just saying, I'm testing the market. I'm going for as much money as I can get. And for whatever they agree to disagree, part ways, and then you have a full understanding going into the draft. You do something like this, you're basically saying, I'm moving on from John Grenard, and I'm trying to find a bookend for Will Anderson.
I've seen a lot of people, and I don't necessarily agree with this, that are okay with the idea of coupling a John Grenard re-sign and also drafting a defensive end at number 23.
Why would you do that?
Because the reason they say is because San Francisco, when D'Amico was there, they would just throw pass rushers at you, and they would have this rotation, and they would be really good, and they get after you. You could also get creative on some third and longs. Like Will Anderson early in the year was playing a little bit of defensive tackle in pass rushing situations. They got away from that like after week 5 or 6. So you can have some creativity that way. I'm not a fan of signing Grenard to a multi-year deal and drafting a defensive end at 23. Now, middle rounds, whatever. But if you were to franchise tag Grenard and draft defensive end at 23, I would be more willing to do that.
Then you're kind of covering your own ass. If Grenard plays a year on the franchise and leaves, then you got him. If you're going to lock up John Grenard, then the first thing that I'm looking at doing is doing what D'Amico mentioned in his end of the season press conference, and that is making the defensive line better. So if I already know that I got Anderson and Grenard, then I'm going to look at Sweat, and I'm going to look at some of the guys from Texas. I'm going to look at some interior defensive linemen, because now I'm going to try and emulate more of what kind of players I want on my defense, kind of what I had in San Francisco. Now I'm going to build the inside middle of my defensive line, knowing that I have the 2 pass rushers on the edge.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan of this idea if you re-sign Grenard. Now, if you don't re-sign Grenard, totally fine with Chop Robinson. In fact, I'd be excited about Chop Robinson at number 23. All right, the 2 picks after Chop Robinson. Graham Barton, offensive tackle. Duke goes to the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to be mocked for a tackle in every single mock draft. And then he has Kool-Aid McKinstry going number 25 to Green Bay. So you're in the shoes of Caserio. Those are your 3 options: Chop Robinson, Graham Barton, Duke offensive tackle, or Kool-Aid McKinstry, the Alabama corner. Who is the pick?
See, to me, it comes down to the status of guys already on your roster. If you move on from Stevie Nelson, and they're kind of they're correlated in the fact that if you move on from both, then I think that you can find other corners, and I don't think there's a ton of standalone corners that stand up better than anybody else in this draft. Whereas I think that you would look at an edge rusher and say, look, if this is the way that I plan, if I'm not going to free agency to get John Grenard's replacement, if he's leaving, then this is the way that I'm going to go. But if you know that one or both are staying, that's kind of to define who I'm going to take here. But of the 2, I think that you can there's many different options for both, really. But I'll take the better edge rusher to pair with Will Anderson, trusting that I can find a veteran corner that's like a Stevie Nelson deal when you brought him in here, or I can find a corner in the draft in the 2nd or 3rd round.
This probably depends on what you do with your own guys.
Yes, for sure.
If you sign Nelson, Chop's the pick. If you sign Grenard, Kool-Aid's the pick. Would you rather have Chop Robinson and Steven Nelson, or John Grenard and Kool-Aid McKinstry?
I'm going to take...
See, this is where money comes into play, though.
Yeah, this is big, but I'm going to take Chop Robinson and Stevie Nelson because of the fact that now you've got me a little leery on Grenard being able to stay healthy.
Yeah, that is something that worries me.
And how many years he's going to get at a really big number, whereas I get an edge rusher to replace him, and I'm paying him a fraction of what he's going to make. And then I bring Stevie Nelson back. A corner, no matter what he's looking to make at his age, is not going to make near the top corners in this league, to where I can get a couple-year deal out of Stevie Nelson, and I get a young, bookend rusher to go alongside Will Anderson, and I got a boatload of money to play with.
See, I think that the talent is better with Grenard and Kool-Aid, but what it's going to cost you and like against the cap and like what is shrewd and valuable, I go with what you say as well. 713-780-ESPN, everybody's favorite game. It's whenever, usually it's Joe. Sometimes it's Brian.
He's on
Brian,
a heater lately.
We've been getting destroyed this year and who said it. But who said it? Who's reading them this week? Is it going to be Abigail or Brian? Brian's going to be doing it. Brian's going to read to us what ESPN 97.5 personalities have said throughout the week in the Killer Bees. As of lately, guess incorrectly who said it. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. If Joe George is Stumpy Joe, he's not here with us today. He's no longer with us. What would Brian?
Oh, we've established this.
Stumpy
This
Brian?
No. We've established it's canon at this point. It's Tree Mac.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, that's well established.
Tree Mac?
Yeah,
Tree Mac.
Why?
It's a play on
Stump,
B-Mac.
Stump, Tree.
Oh,
He's
Stump and
bigger.
Tree. Got it.
Yeah,
got
he's
it.
bigger
I
than
was trying to
Stump.
get
Bigger
the
than
tree
Joe,
part
yeah.
of it. Yeah,
That's
okay.
good. I like that. All right, so Brian McDonald's going to read to us quotes, 5 of them, that were said by ESPN 97.5 personalities, and the Bees have to guess who said it. We need a win.
So how many
We're 0
weeks
for
in a row-
January.
How many weeks? Oh, you're 0 for January.
I don't think we've won in January. We're 0 for January.
You beat us early, I think.
Yeah.
And then
Joe's
Joe's
picked up
won
a
2 in a
couple.
row.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to win this week. I do.
We'll see.
Don't patronize.
Whoa.
Was that lightning?
Yeah.
What?
That startled me.
Yeah,
there was a
startled you?
huge
Big
lightning
flash
bolt
was
right
there.
out
I
of
didn't
the
even
window.
see it. I'm so locked in, I didn't even see it. Now
There's
I
the
hear the
thunder.
thunder.
There's the follow
There's
through.
the
Jeez,
thunder.
when's it going to stop raining in this city? We
Apparently
had a beautiful
never.
day
Maybe
yesterday.
when you guys win a Who Said It, it'll stop raining in the
It's a-
city.
maybe
Don't
it's a
patronize
sign.
us. Let's see if we're going to win
All
this
right,
week.
quote
I
one.
do think you're going to win this week.
Okay, let's see.
All right, quote number 1. Would it be great if, if these kids are playing Chuck E. Cheese games and if they failed, Chucky kills them?
Someone that has no experience with kids. So
Is
Paul
Dell,
right off
is
the
Dell
top.
an option here?
Oh, I should have clarified that from the beginning. No, he is not.
Okay.
Only the regular host.
And was John here
And,
earlier this
for,
week?
and for the record,
Oh, okay.
obviously repeats are
Yeah.
are allowed.
You feel? You mean you said that quickly?
I mean, Paul has no experience with kids, so he would think about killing kids.
I could see like Connor or Beard saying this though.
Connor's got experience with kids.
Yeah.
Beard has experience with kids.
Sometimes people who have kids though wouldn't mind that from time to time.
And speak about it outwardly.
I don't know. Like any of those
Well,
three
okay,
guys.
so
would
who
speak about
did you
it. I
think
mean,
about when you heard it?
those three guys? Those three guys.
Paul,
Connor and
Beard.
Because they always say things that are out there.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't have a feel one way or the other. You're heavily on Paul. I think we should go Paul.
We'll try it. We'll go Paul.
Paulie.
Would it be great if these
Granado.
kids are playing
Trumpy
Chucky Cheese
Granado.
games and then if they failed, Chucky kills them?
Damn, I didn't see that one coming.
That was kind of like the Squid Games a little bit, right?
It was. That was actually. It was from News of the Weird, and they were talking about a Squid Games, like some sort of version with Chuck E. Cheese.
I watched it. Did y'all watch the Squid Game challenge?
No, I
Oh,
have
you were
not.
telling me
I
about
watched it. It's all right. It's not bad.
it. Local
It's
guy
worth
from
the
Houston
watch.
in it, right?
For Squid Game challenge?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
I think they were interviewing him on Channel 2 one day.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's worth the watch, but it's not great. All right, number 2.
All right, quote number 2. I'm saying I've got a bias. I look at the white guys who are wearing Texas stuff and A&M stuff, and I'm like, is this guy really a good player, or does he have a dad who has connections?
This could be Lance is going through a lot of film work right now. Like, why else are they talking about white guys, Texas and Texas A&M at this time of year?
Well, you know that Beard and Connor talk about it because of Beard's agginess and because of Connor's wife and the Alabama thing.
But would they still be talking about it outside of college football season?
Good point.
And specifically both A&M and
Paul
Texas.
has a lot of biases because Paul openly talks about how he loves the Patriots, he loves the Celtics, he hates both A&M and Texas
But his favorite football player was a white football player
himself.
Yeah,
I saw that one coming a mile away.
All right, well,
That is the correct answer, by the way. It is Paul's favorite player is Paul.
It's himself. Correct.
Taps 5A state champion in Florida. Well, can you repeat it
All
again?
district safety. Yeah, all right. Quote again is, I'm saying I've got a bias. I look at the white guys who are wearing Texas stuff and A&M stuff, and I'm like, is this guy really a good player, or does he have a dad who has connections?
It's weird he said stuff
Oh,
and
I-
not
but
like
I think-
jersey or uniform.
Yeah, but I still think you're on the right path.
You think it's Lance?
Yeah.
This is my feel.
I think that, I mean, who else is talking
That's
about
what I'm
it?
saying.
Yeah, when you got it. And the other day they were talking about analyzing players, and he said he could do a job where if he did it for college football, he wouldn't put much time and effort into it. He would just go, that's a 3, that's a 4. And then if he had to explain it, he would. I think you're right.
All right, let's go with Lance then.
I'm saying I've got a bias.
Boom.
I look at the
Oh,
little,
boom.
the
Good job.
white
I
guys
couldn't tell
who
who that
are
was at
Texas
first.
I don't
stuff
think you
and
like-
A&M
I
stuff,
don't
and I'm
think-
All right.
So what's his bias?
Yeah, I'm not. I look.
I guess his bias are the non-whites.
I
Well,
guess so.
he definitely isn't going to be against Texas because of his wife.
That's true.
Although he might, depending on how those conversations go, be against Texas in a moment or two. You know how those go between husband and wife. All right, anyway, clip number 3. You've met my wife and kids. Both my wife and kids do not look like they come from my gene pool.
That's got to be Beard.
My wife,
not
of course,
Paul.
doesn't.
It's
That's a
definitely
good
not
thing
Paul.
because we're married.
It's
sounds
gotta be
like
Beard.
It sounds like Beard.
Like it could be Granada,
Lance.
but I don't think so. It could be
It could
Lance.
be
but I don't think
Lance.
so. I think this is Beard.
Wait. One more time, please.
You've met my wife and kids. Both my wife and kids do not look like they come from my gene pool. My wife, of course, doesn't. That's a good thing because we're married.
Now, I heard Granado talking this morning about how he met Wendy, but it was a little different.
Granado was back?
Yeah, he called in.
Oh. I think this is Beard.
I think you're right.
You just want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Josh Beard.
You've met my
Yeah,
wife
boom.
and
Nice,
kids.
boom.
Both
All
my
right, we're
wife
rolling.
and kids, they do not look like they come from my gene pool.
All right, you're up
That was
2-1.
yesterday, I guess. Sounded like he was on a remote.
So one more to
Inside
lock in the win.
decoy, not outside the decoy.
Might have slipped and fallen again.
He does that a lot, or cuts his finger off. All right, quote number 4. See if you guys can pull off the win. I've come to terms with my body aging and breaking down. You haven't gotten to that yet. You will, and I'll have a whole list of stuff waiting.
This could be Beard telling Connor because he's older than Connor.
It could also be Lance telling Dell.
He could tell Dell, right? He wouldn't tell John.
Yeah.
Because he was on with Dell this morning.
Yeah, so like that could be Brian's trick if he's not using
And
Dell.
we all have
but
highlighted
context
how,
of Dell.
how much both Lance's body has broken down, even walking off a curb, and how Beard continues to have mishaps where his body is breaking down.
Is Beard older than Connor?
I think so.
I'm not sure.
I think he
I have
is.
no idea. I couldn't tell you. They're probably around the same age. Can you repeat it one more time?
Sure. I've come to terms with my body aging and breaking down. You haven't gotten to that yet. You will, and I'll have a whole list of stuff waiting.
This could be Beard. It's either Beard or Lance.
Yeah.
No one else is.
It's not Paul.
I don't
Because
think
you
it'd
haven't
be
met
Paul.
his wife and kids. He hasn't either.
Yeah. Well, he didn't say wife or kids in that one, did he? No, he
The
talked
wife and
about,
kids was the previous
Oh, that was
quote.
the previous one.
But Paul talks about how immaculate shape he's in.
Oh, he always does.
Yeah, so he's not talking about his body breaking down. He thinks that he's in
Yeah,
peak.
he still thinks he can play professional sports.
He thinks he's in his peak body era, where Lance wouldn't, Beard wouldn't. Beard's been a little fragile lately,
Yeah, stairs, fingers.
but I think he's so close in age with Michael, it wouldn't be.
I think
him.
you're onto something. I think it's Lance talking
I think
to Dell.
I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think we'll do that.
All right, Lance.
I have come to terms with
Oh,
my
dang
body
it.
aging and breaking down. You have not gotten to that
We
yet.
had
You
it.
will, and I'll have a whole.
Right there. Was
Yeah.
he talking to Michael or was he
Yeah.
talking to Andrew?
He was talking to Michael. Josh
Okay.
is older than Michael by a couple years.
I was on that path.
Dang it.
All right,
Yeah,
so
right
one
on
last one, and this is a reintroduction of Who Said It Masterpiece Theater with Michael Carroll and I.
Oh, great.
Oh, boy.
Don't put a number on the front of the jersey. Put the big hammer logo or whatever the hell. The moon or whatever's on the Turkish flag.
The crescent moon?
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah, look at me knowing flags. Flag trivia on the show.
Crescent moon and the star on the flag of Turkey.
Is there a hammer thing somewhere?
No, there's no hammer. You're thinking communism.
Oh, well, they're close enough to communism.
That is not.
I mean, they're close to Russia, right? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Don't
So now
like-
what's the
don't like
rule on this?
theater.
We got to get both of them right? It's just
Yeah.
guess the show?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have 3 people shows. So.
Well, it's not producers involved.
Right, no
Okay.
producers.
So it couldn't be Paulie.
So it can't be Paul.
I'm not going to give you the answer.
Well, but that's
I
true.
just told you.
Oh, well, you're
I'm
going
just,
to be Bush League if
I'm
it's
just
Paul.
establishing it can't be Paul.
And Paul would probably know the flags.
Yeah, like Sheldon on.
Yeah, he just kind of has that
what's
kind
that show
of.
called? Was Sheldon on it?
The
The
prequel?
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, there you go.
The
Okay.
Big
I didn't know
Bang
if you're
Theory.
talking about that one or
No.
Young Shelton.
No, I was talking about
prequel.
the Sheldon on the Big Bang Theory. He's like he has like a flag YouTube. So I
I
could
know.
see Paul being
I
Sheldon.
didn't know that.
Or do you think that Paul would not know that? The Turkish flag.
Well, it doesn't matter. Paul's not going to be the answer here. He can't be with producer.
Oh, if it can't be a producer, then okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's Connor Beard.
He said he wouldn't answer that.
Right, but it would be Bush League because he said before the start of it he's not going to use
that's
a
why I
producer.
said all right. That's why I said it would be Bush League.
And
okay.
you said Granada was doing it early in the week. I think that they would have this conversation. I think it would be John and Lance.
What did I say? I don't think on this one I said John was having this conversation earlier in the week.
I didn't hear you say that.
Yeah, not for this one. This one I don't. This is about Alpy, right?
I guess. I have no idea what those dudes talk about. They talk about anything.
Can I hear it one more time, please?
Don't put a number on the front of the jersey. Put the big hammer logo or whatever the hell. The moon or whatever's on the Turkish flag.
The crescent moon?
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah, look at me knowing flags. Flag trivia on the show.
Crescent moon and the star on the flag of Turkey.
Is there a hammer thing somewhere?
No, there's no hammer. You're thinking communism.
Oh, well, they're close enough to communism.
That is not.
I mean, they're close to Russia, right? I don't know. I'm just asking.
It could be Connor and Beard.
It's one of two, right? We either got to go bench or Beard or
Yeah,
Connor
I
and
guess
Beard.
those are the only two it could be.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Now, the kind of Michael Carroll part of this sounds a lot like Granado. The kind of the pause and the
the cadence.
yeah, the cadence, right?
Do you want to do that?
Sure.
All right, let's go with them.
Don't put a number on the front of the jersey.
Oh,
Put
let's
the big
go.
hammer logo or whatever the hell with the moon or whatever.
Oh, you're so
on the Turkish
close.
Flag.
The crescent moon.
Is that what
I
it
really
is?
thought you guys were going to get it.
Let me know my flag.
Another L.
Closer this week.
We missed two 50-50s down the stretch.
But it means
Yeah, we
Houston's
did.
going to get a lot more rain, though.
It's
So you
like
guys
the-
win. Who said it?
It's like the Groundhog's Day. A
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly.
Yeah, we missed two 50-50s down the stretch to lose by one. That's some
That's
some
on us.
unlucky. That was Rockets in the final.
And
third
we were
Reggie
there.
against
Miller
the
was
Blazers
here.
the
He
other
would
day.
be
We were
giving you
right
the
there.
choke sign.
We were the Rockets against the Blazers the other day when they blew that lead.
Yeah, we were winning until
Somebody
we weren't.
should have fouled with 1.6 left.
We choked.
Yeah, that's not a good
That was
look.
bad. All right,
All right,
these
live and
people.
learn.
These people are trying to help us on the text line. They're wrong. The
Did they,
people-
I was about to ask, did they have right
I
answers?
just-
So last
just
week
looked
you said
at
the
it.
Twitch was trying to help us, and now the texts are trying to help us, and they're wrong.
They always try to help. I never look at them like while we're in segment, so it's always a little bit hard to know like when they were saying it. But this one was a second ago. It said the bench, which is no longer the bench. It's now John and Lance. All right, 713-780-ESPN. You know who's the most critical Texan for 2024 success? It's not who you'd think. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Hey, right now, a word for Allstate Siding and Windows. That's right. I just had a great experience with Allstate Siding and Windows. I just had new windows put in my house, and I am telling you the difference that they make in my house. First of all, it upgrades the overall appearance of the exterior of my house. But then I know what kind of savings I'm going to get by using those top quality vinyl windows. I can reduce my energy bills up to 40%. They are phenomenal. And the fact of the matter is they got specials going on all the time. They have all the different ways that you can get 24 months interest free, 30% off on all windows, and much, much more. Mary, Mike, the family, they've been in business for almost 50 years supporting ESPN 97.5, Houston Sports, and doing the best job out there when it comes to siding and windows. They can do it for you, too. It was really simple. I called the number, 832-204-1936. Mike came out to our house. He explained how they can help and what we should be looking to do. We did it. We got the windows. They look fantastic. The installation was painless, and now we are reaping the benefit of lower energy bills and a better overall appearance to our house. And don't get it twisted now. With hurricane season, these windows are exactly what you need to endure all the different winds and weather that you're going to get and keep the cool air in the summer in and the hot air in the winter in just the same way. Check them out today. Go to allstatewindowsandsiding.com or call them 832-204-1936. Tell them I sent you by.
All teams covered. No stalking points necessary. You're back with the Killer Bees on 97.5 and 92.5. Live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios.
Brian's
Kiss my ass, Brian.
celebrating. You know when really good hitters get into slumps and they can't buy a hit, and really good shooters can't make a shot? Not that we've ever been good at this game. This is what it feels like. You feel like you're never I feel like I'm never going to win Who Said It again. Hitters feel like they're never going to get a hit again. Shooters feel like they're never going to see one fall again. I don't think we're ever going to win.
Yeah, we are.
I don't think so.
I hope so.
I don't think we're ever going to win again.
At least we got two this week. It was at least we saved some face.
I think it was worse to lose that way.
Yeah.
Well, you're now officially 0 for January because the next game's not until February.
So there you go. We were blank.
Play another song, Casey.
In
Thanks.
January. Do you know who's the most critical person for the Houston Texans' success in 2024? It's not D'Amico. It's not C.J. Stroud. It is Nick Caserio. We were looking yesterday at some of the contracts and things you can get out of, but we know that everybody's a free agent, it seems, right? John Grenard's a free agent. Dalton Schultz is a free agent. Devin Singletary's a free agent. Steven Nelson's a free agent. Maybe you cut a Jimmy Ward. I was looking at their depth chart, and you're going to have upwards of about a dozen starters that you have to fill going into next year. Right now, you don't have a starting running back. I'm sorry, Dameon Pierce is not a starting running back for the Houston Texans. Running back, a starter that you have to fill. I like Brevin Jordan. I'm not ready to make Brevin Jordan my tight end one. So there's a tight end that you have to fill. That's number 2. You might have to fill left guard. You might not have to. Kind of depends on who you ask. Like, is Juice Scruggs, Jarrett Patterson, Kenyon Green, and Kendrick Green's also under contract. Maybe that's enough to give you a left guard. So maybe it's 2.5 there. We won't count it. You need 2 linebackers. You need a middle linebacker. Perryman's gone. Cashman's currently a free agent. And you need a strong linebacker. So there's 2 more. That's upwards of 4. Harris plays weak linebacker. You need a nickel back because Desmond King's not currently on this roster because he's free. So that's 5. You need a corner opposite of Derek Stingley. There's 6. You might need a free safety. Depends on what you do with Jimmy Ward. So we won't count that one, but you might need another one. So it's another defensive tackle. That's 7. Another defensive end opposite of Will Anderson. That's 8. Would you consider a wide receiver 3 a starter? I would.
Yeah. Yep.
There's 9. And then the other 3, kicker, punter, long snapper, because Johnston, Fairbairn, Weeks are all free as well. So that's 12 starters that the Texans have to fill before 2024. And who's the man responsible for filling those starters? It's Nick Caserio. We talked a lot about how Nick Caserio had a good offseason in 2023, which I think he did. Like, Caserio had a really good offseason in 2023. I was critical of the draft. I was proven wrong with the draft. So I commend Caserio for having a good offseason after people wanted him fired. They wanted him gone. So he did a good job. He's got to be able to do it again for the Houston Texans to really be taken seriously as like this team that can crash the Super Bowl party.
Not only that, Jeremy, but you think about just how important it is. Not only who he drafts, but he has to be savvy with the way he handles his finances. He has to figure out, to the exercise we did yesterday, who do they feel is too valuable to let go, and who can they negotiate? And then he's got to be a staunch negotiator to get those contracts that they keep at a rate in which they can still have the amount of money they need to go get whatever else they need to get. From a market perspective, when you go out on the open market in free agency, that you don't overspend, but you upgrade in positions where you need to, or get at least the equivalent of players when you can't, like for Dalton Schultz or Stevie Nelson. So it's across the board how important, because now everything gets tougher, not just the schedule next year, but from Nick's perspective, now you're not just trying to find the fighting Rex Burkheads that are just going to come and fill a void for a year or two. Mm-hmm. Now you're looking to take this team to the next level by upgrading position groups and, like you said, starting positions where whether a guy's leaving or you want to move on and move up.
And expectations are going to be higher.
Yep.
The fan base expects more from you. And if, like, again, 12 starters, 9 of them are, like, significant. Kicker, punter, they matter. Long snapper matters. But, like, we're talking about the critical, 2 deep spots on offense and defense. And if 9 of those 12 guys are duds, with the schedule you have next year, you're probably not going to be a very good football team, like, to be completely honest with you. Now, if he hits on all of these, and that's too high of a bar. If he hits on a high majority of these, You have to take the Texans seriously, somebody who could crash the party, make a deep run in the AFC playoffs. So all of it's on Nick Caserio, and it's throughout the entire process. It's about talking with your own free agents before free agency even opens, trying to get some of the guys that you really like back on terms that you're okay with, using the franchise tag. Maybe it's on John Grenard. Maybe it's on Kaimi Fairbairn, because smart teams sometimes use their franchise tag on kickers because it's the top 5 average salaries in the NFL. On top of that, it's what you do in free agency. I thought Caserio was good in free agency last year. Dalton Schultz in a prove-it deal. He proved to be pretty good. He proved where he's probably going to price himself out of. Yeah, he got Singletary at 3.25. Like, that was a really good pickup by Caserio. Perryman was all right. Like, he was. Like, he wasn't very good in coverage. He was good getting downhill, and he missed a lot of games, but not a bad signing.
Kind of better than what they had.
And it didn't cost you a ton.
Right.
Like, so it was like very, very low risk. You had some reward there. Same thing with Ward. Like, Ward missed a lot of games, and I didn't think he was super productive, but he didn't cost you a whole lot either.
But Ward, I thought, was more of a bust. Cashman's a great find. Cashman was a guy that really played his tail off.
Cashman was prior to the previous offseason.
That's true.
But it was still
he really stepped
fine.
up, yeah.
And then some waiver wire pickups, like at the Kendrick Green trade. Like, while Kendrick Green was playing, he actually gave you some pretty decent starts early in the season whenever you absolutely had it, and that was a trade. So Caserio needs to stack a good offseason the previous year that wasn't without some controversy and questions, and do it again. Now, I do have some faith in Caserio. Like, I think that Caserio is better than I think a lot of people do. What is your faith in Caserio to stack a good offseason in 23 with another good offseason in 24?
I'm more leaning to the side of things that he's going to continue to keep this rolling in the right direction, because even in the middle of the season, something that he wasn't willing to do, I think, in the past, when he went out and got some of the veterans that came in to help, like Barnett, like some of the guys he got late to fill some holes and gaps, and those guys actually played fairly well for you. I think that he's got a pretty good knack for talent evaluation. I think that he's going to do very well. You know, I've given him more credit than you probably in terms of his ability to negotiate as well, because that's going to be a key a key trait that he's going to have to really use this offseason for all the things that we said. I think he's going to do a good job. I have confidence in him that between the draft and free agency and retaining their own, I think that I will feel confident going into the start of the regular season that this team is better than they were a year ago.
Yeah, all of these steps are going to matter. And, like, how you get these starters can be a variety of different ways. Like, you have a first-rounder, that guy should be a starter. You have a second-rounder, that guy should be a starter. I think a third-rounder should be borderline starter.
Yeah.
Now, Tank Dell was, like, but that was a huge hit. Like, you're not going to find a Tank Dell in the third round every year, although he did find Nico Collins a few years ago.
Third-round safety. You get a third-round, a corner that can play.
So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say 3 of the starters come from the draft class. Okay. And that's not even saying that it has to be a third-rounder. It could be anybody from the third round on. Like, that would be fine. Like, however you get 3 starters from the draft, I think it's successful. Now, of course, you want it to be your first rounder and your second rounder. That means that you have to go out and, like, let's eliminate the specialist
I was
here.
going to
Let's
say,
eliminate
I think
the
Weeks
kicker,
is back,
punter, long
Johnson's
snapper.
back, and Kaimi may get a raise, but Kaimi will be back.
And if you don't sign one of them, you're going to go sign an average kicker for a very similar dollar that probably has very similar production. So if you eliminate the kickers out of it, the specialist out of it, kicker, punter, long snapper, so that gets you down to 9. Let's say you draft 3 of them, it gets you down to 6. Now you have to either sign your own or you have to go out in free agency and get some. And that's not always easy to do, especially in free agency, because if you're in free agency, who are you competing with? The rest of the league. So a critical offseason for the Texans, and Nick Caserio is going to be earning his money.
No doubt about it, because you think about it just from an offensive perspective, you have to try and retain Singletary at a fair price, but regardless, you're probably going to need another key running back addition. And that means you're going to have to find someone that wants to play here, and you're going to have to try and keep that as a manageable salary figure. And then you're going to need a tight end too. Whether it's Jordan or not, you're going to need a tight end that complements Jordan and gives you the chance to at least be as good as Schultz was this last year. And that's going to be a challenge for him.
That's why whenever we're, like, pinching pennies for salary cap space and, like, talking about, like, Mike Evans and stuff like that, you don't need one starter. You're going to need to get 9. Now, some of them might come from the draft, and if you say 3 of them do, okay, well, now you need 6. So you go get a 1 Mike Evans. What are you doing with the other 5 starting positions in a sport where depth is critical? Just something to keep in mind.
Well, especially since we kind of analyzed how much they were lacking depth throughout the early parts of this season, too, and how you had to go out and get guys later in the season to try and fulfill the depth that you didn't have.
Mm-hmm. 713-780-ESPN. Nick Caserio, is he the most critical man for the Texans this offseason? And what are those positions that you would like to see him fill in the draft and free agency? 713-780-3776. Also some running backs and receivers. Those are always the guys that you like to talk about in free agency. Which of those pending free agents intrigue you? It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Hey, before we go to the break, another minute for my friends at Daisy Dips. You got big games this weekend. You got big plans. You got the family coming over. Maybe you got friends coming over. You got a watch party for the 2 games. Maybe you need to serve some food, and with that, make sure that the people that are at your house are happy. Whether the game goes the direction you want it to or not, the people are going to be happy if the food is good. The food gets better if you get Daisy Dips. Daisy Dips makes everything better, from your favorite chip to your veggie dips to your pizza and your wings. Regardless, Daisy Dips does all the work for you, and then what you bring to the table is going to be fantastic dips, whether you get the ranch or you get the French onion. It is delicious, and you don't have to do a thing. You don't have to mix it in the kitchen. You don't have to try and work and get the right combination. All you do is go to your grocery store, grab you the Daisy Dips, get a tub of the French onion, get a tub of the ranch, put it out with whatever you're serving, and people are going to love it and be thankful to you for bringing it to the table. Go to your grocery store today, grab a couple of tubs of Daisy Dips.
And Jeremy Branham, live.
Adam 713-7803. It's not crazy amounts. I mean, the rookie, the statement. So, surprised if the Texans budget to have during the season. Now, like, those are guys that you probably won't cut pre your offensive linemen. You have to count every single dime.
No doubt about it. I think that when you think about even a Dameon Pierce is a guy that's going to start the season in your camp to start, you know, the actual training camp portion. But there'll be teams probably asking, are you done with him? What would it take to get him if they feel like they want to upgrade their room? Because they know that he's not a fit systematically, and they know that he's got plenty of tread on the tires, and he's a guy that in the right system in his rookie year showed that he can run the football a little bit. So he starts there, but does he, start the regular season there is another question.
Someone asked, what about Alvin Kamara? Alvin Kamara is not free. So unless he's a cap casualty for the Saints, that's not something that's going to happen.
And if he does get let go by the Saints, I'm pretty sure he's not going to come too cheap.
No, because he would have a market.
And I think that there's a guy that might have lost a little bit from where he was that I'm not interested.
The savings on Kamara aren't high either. Like, you save $1.5 million. Like, that's not worth it to move on from a Kamara. So now you're looking at a trade, and I'm not giving a whole lot for Alvin Kamara.
No.
6453, any contract you can see being restructured. Yeah, it's a good call. I haven't really taken the deep dive of like who would be open to doing that. Take some cash in the short term to restructure long term. That could come from anybody. Usually it comes from your big salaries, though.
Yeah, your boy, and I don't think he's willing to do that.
Who's that?
Laramie.
He's done it.
I don't think he's willing to do it again.
I disagree, because it gives you cash in the up front. It gives you cash up front.
As long as he benefits from it financially, I think he'd consider it, but he just doesn't seem to be a guy that's going to do a team-friendly thing.
Well, it's like a scratch my back, scratch your back. It's usually not anything that's going to cost you money. It's just a restructuring of how much of it's signing
Right, and
bonus.
bonuses,
So it doesn't really like impact you a whole lot financially. It's confusing. 713-780-ESPN HRP listener line 713-780-3776. So we believe the Texans need a starting running back. We believe that the Houston Texans are going to need a starting receiver. Doesn't have to be a receiver 1, could be a wide receiver 3 that you're pairing with Nico and Tank. And it doesn't necessarily, none of these guys have to come from free agency either. Now, Pro Football Focus starting to put together their free agent class list. And, we like to spend more time talking about running backs and wide receivers than left guards and nose tackles. So, humor us. Do any of these running back names intrigue you? And it doesn't give the cap projections and stuff like that, but would a Saquon Barkley intrigue you from a Houston Texans perspective?
Yes, because I think that it's the good and the bad, right? The bad is that he's been dinged up early in his career. The good is that means there's not a whole lot of extra mileage on the tires, and I think that in a system in which he has a true quarterback, not a Daniel Jones, and he's got guys around him, I think there's a whole lot of upside left for Saquon Barkley to where it would be intriguing to insert a guy, the multi-talented Saquon Barkley, into a lineup that has C.J. Stroud and company.
One of the things that I'm watching a lot in free agency are the cost on these running backs, because we've seen over the course of the last few years that the running back salaries aren't really that high.
They took a huge dive.
So it used to be never pay a running back that second contract, to where now the market has corrected itself to the point now is like, Saquon Barkley worth $11 to $12 million.
I don't think he's worth that much money, and I think that's why
don't?
It's intriguing. I don't. Well, let me put it this way: from a Texans perspective, I just can't see them taking the cap money that we were just talking about, the money that they're going to have to try to allocate across the board and spread around, to spread 10 to 11 on Saquon Barkley. I think that seems high to me.
I think it helps you a lot. I think that a Saquon Barkley helped you more than like the second tier wide receivers in free agency.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Is it better to go Saquon at 11 or Austin Eckler at 7?
So I would say
6 or
Barkley.
7.
I would say Barkley at 11, because Eckler. I don't know what Eckler's going to look like running the football. Eckler intrigues me. Like if you miss out on Saquon Barkley, Eckler intrigues me on a one-year deal. I really don't want to do a second year, but if you do a 2-year deal, second year's non-guaranteed. It's really a 1-year deal, anyways. Like at $6 million, that to me would be fine. But is he your starting running back?
I think he is.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a huge upgrade over Singletary. Now, it's a huge upgrade in Singletary in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield, but in terms of running the ball on the ground, I wouldn't say that Eckler's way better than Singletary at this stage of their careers.
Well, I think there's more tread
on the ground,
more tread on the tires on Eckler for sure. But I think he fits systematically a little bit more. His whole career has been he's more shifty than he is. I just think of Saquon is more of a power back when he's running the football.
Yeah, but he's a good. He can cut though. He's quick. He's very athletic.
I mean, it depends on his ankles. But
yeah, he is injury prone. That's a good point.
So I think Eckler for $5 million less could be something that they consider.
Yeah, fair enough. Josh Jacobs.
I just don't think schematically he fits right. I just think he's a pounder, and I think he's more like a Pierce. And I think that this year when he came back, he didn't look to be the same kind of player either. And maybe that's because he was holding out. But regardless, I'll pass on him.
If I'm going to spend Jacobs' money, I just want to get Barkley.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm probably out on Jacobs because of the tier that he's at and the cost. Like if I'm just going to spend that money, I'm just going to spend it on Saquon, which you can question whether you should spend that money or not. Derrick Henry.
No.
You're just completely out on Derrick Henry?
At this point in his career, I don't think he's like you were talking about. We're talking about Eckler, but I just don't know that Derrick Henry's got a whole lot left.
See, I disagree with that. I think that Derrick Henry still has quite a bit left in his tank. The few times that I watched him play this year, he was still a very, very good running back.
I saw the Texans dominate him in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And again, systematically, I don't think he fits because he's looking for that big hoss offensive line, the way they're just going to pound it through the tackles. And I just don't see the same way Pierce doesn't fit the way Singletary does. I don't see Henry fitting the way more of a shifty back fits.
Yeah, I'm open to the idea of a Henry Singletary backfield. So I wouldn't rule him
carries
out.
Like that, I could see that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get you 20, 25 carries anymore. Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard, if healthy, is the right kind of back for this system. I think that, but I think he's looking for big money.
Yeah.
So I think that scares me.
So again, it depends on what the running back market's like.
Right. It depends on the finances there, but I think Tony Pollard healthy is the exact kind of back the Texans are looking for. He's got a lot of scoot to him and scat. He can cut. He's quick, but he can also get you between the tackles and get you your tough yards. I think Tony Pollard's a really good fit, but finances matter.
Austin Eckler's a guy we've already discussed. DeAndre Swift.
I don't know that he's a complete fit systematically, and I just haven't been a big DeAndre Swift guy.
Yeah.
I just don't like the fit. I would pass on him.
I tend to pass on Swift, too. I like a lot of these other running backs more than Swift. How about a bounce-back J.K. Dobbins?
If this was J.K. Dobbins coming out of Ohio State, absolutely. But J.K. Dobbins, he tore the ACL and then he came back and tore his Achilles?
Yeah, he's
I'm staying away from
he's
that.
a damaged goods. They already have Singletary here at 8. This is one that you know well, A.J. Dillon.
Wrong fit.
You think so?
Wrong fit because he's a pounder. I mean, he's just
a pounder.
Yeah, he's just.
I'm okay with a pounder, but I don't know if a pounder is going to be my first running back. And they might already have a pounder with Dameon Pierce.
Now, I think that he is I think he's a more effective pounder than Pierce. Pierce hits the hole really hard, really fast, and tries to get the tough yards. Dillon's a guy that can carry some guys, and he can get positive yardage even if the first contact happens at the line of scrimmage or before it. But as a combo with someone else, Dillon could fit. But I just don't see it.
I rather just take the A.J. Dillon light and keep Dameon Pierce on the team because I wouldn't want to hire. I wouldn't want to sign A.J. Dillon as my number one running back. And they mentioned Zach Moss here. This is probably more cheap option.
If
a
Singletary
backup
goes
back.
and gets money for what he did, Zach Moss is a replacement for Singletary.
Yeah, I don't mind Moss's replacement for Singletary. And Moss is more running back by committee than like some of these guys at the top of the market. 0891 or Barkley or Jacobs real options for Houston. I'm curious to see. Like, we've never seen Nick Caserio enter free agency with a playoff caliber team. He has money to spend, but as we just discussed, he's got upwards of 9 starters, talking non-specialists, that he has to fill up as well. So does he take a lot of that salary? I don't want to say a lot, but does he take a decent chunk of the salary cap space and use it on a running back? We don't really have the history of what Nick Caserio would do with a playoff team. Now, like how he spent money in running backs, he's drafted Pierce, he signed Singletary, he signed some Fighting Rex Burkheads. But this is a much different team that he's signing free agents for.
Would you also consider, instead of one, a combo platter of 2 guys, maybe not those 2 guys? Because I think that you got to focus on what D'Amico said.
Probably towards the bottom, like
He
a
wants
Singletary, Moss, and then a drafted guy.
Yeah, but he wants to improve the running game. And part of improving the running game is instead of going with top-of-the-market, big-time guy like Saquon, maybe he goes with 2 guys in and around that kind of Singletary and somebody else to where it's just you have more options and you have the effect. Both guys can be effective.
Play the fresh, hot hand. It would kind of be a Miami Dolphins situation with Mostert, who was
Very much
like
so.
a second. He was already on his second team. They drafted a running back in Achane in the middle rounds, and they were also expecting to count on Jeff Wilson, and he got hurt. So it would be different than like the McCaffrey route in San Francisco.
And think about the San Francisco system that LaFleur runs in the way they had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. If the pounding was working, then they would give the ball more to Dillon. But if they were going to go more that spread open, Jones can run it between the tackles, but he can also catch it to where you can do that too.
It's just weird because like that's always been the way that that system operates. But then San Francisco said, "The heck with that, we're getting McCaffrey."
Yeah, and we're going to put Debo back there with him.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost insulting to how that system was built. They're like, let's just double down on it, which it works. Some of these free agents here for receivers, we'll kind of go through these quickly. T. Higgins,
interesting.
See, it's intriguing to me, but I think he's going to cost so much that it's actually going to lessen the overall product of your team. And I like Nico. I like Tank. I don't think that you have to have a clear-cut superstar wide receiver that Higgins is going to want to be. So I probably actually stray away from these top free agents.
Intriguing,
receivers.
yes. Willing to pay his salary and the length of years he wants, no.
Pittman?
I like him.
I do too, but I
like him a lot.
I think he's going to get paid.
He's going in this market with the free agency class. He's going to be one of the top guys to go, and he's going to get big dollars.
Evans,
money matters.
If he gives you a hometown discount, absolutely. But I don't think it's going to happen. Hollywood Brown,
I don't like him.
See, I think he can be really intriguing with this offense.
I don't because of the fact you already got Tank.
I don't care if they're tiny. I could use as many tiny receivers as long as they're good. I don't care about small. I care about quality. Now, he's injury prone, and if he wants to, there's a certain dollar figure where I'm not going over with Hollywood Brown. It's almost the Austin Eckler, give me a prove it year
I
deal.
think he's got to prove himself based on what he's been through.
And
somebody
might be desperate and spend. But the only way I'm signing him is on a prove it deal. Calvin Ridley, they're saying that they're not going to let him leave, but I was not that impressed with Calvin Ridley.
I was not at all.
When
Route
he played
running,
the Texans.
attitude, body language, I just and hands sometimes. I'm not big on Ridley.
I'm actually not either. Darnell Mooney.
Bears.
Yeah, I'm
he's
mailing
okay,
him.
but no.
I would be disappointed if he's your third receiver. Gabe Davis.
Well, I'm very intrigued by Gabe Davis.
I am too, because I think he wouldn't be at a cap number that's going to hurt you.
And he can be physical. He can go up in traffic and get the football. He runs good routes.
Mm-hmm.
I like Gabe Davis in that system.
He's volatile. Like he'll have a 2-touchdown game and then he won't catch a pass for 3 weeks. But I'm okay with that from a wide receiver.
You got other
3.
guys can fill the void.
Odell Beckham.
Nope.
Yeah, I'm out on that. Tyler Boyd, Cincy.
He's not bad. He's
Yeah.
not bad. He had a little dropsies late in the year that could have cost him a little bit. Texans saw it at one point whether he dropped a touchdown pass. But he can play.
I'm meh on him, but
if he's your third receiver,
I'm okay-ish on him. I'd want to draft one in the third round as well. And the last one, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is really intriguing to me. Like, he's super athletic. He's never had a good quarterback, really. So, not a very big price. This would be a bargain deal.
Okay.
This would be a bargain deal. I'm not paying him like top dollar, but a bargain deal for a guy with that kind of athleticism that's never had a quarterback. That would be something that intrigues me a lot. All right, 713-780-ESPN. What are those names do you like? Also, Beezy Money on the other side. Killer Bees continue to hand out some winners with the conference championship games on Sunday. Killer Bees, ESPN 97.5, ESPN 92.5. We crushed it last week. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but to pat ourselves on the back. We were fantastic in the divisional round. We went 4-1 last week. We won the over in the Houston-Baltimore game. The only game we lost was the Niners, minus the 9.5. We won Detroit, minus 6.5 against Tampa. We won Kansas City, beating Buffalo, and we won the over of that game. So we were 4-1 last week, made nearly $100. We started off with a $1,000 bankroll. We're up to nearly $1,800. Killer Bees have been killing it for all of you.
That's even without
Hope
Joe's
you've
math.
tailed. Yeah,
I
Joe's
was
math
just going to ask,
brutal.
have you double and triple checked the math?
We've had to.
I think we've learned him.
I think we
On how to do
made
it.
back.
You've learned him?
I think
Yeah,
what we
we've learned
made
him.
back what we had to give back when Joe's math was bad.
He was doubling our wins.
Some fuzzy math there.
I was like, our win-loss record doesn't stack up to this total here, Joe. Like it doesn't make a whole lot of
Joe's
sense.
cooking the
We're
books.
10 games above 500 and we're up $2,000. Like I don't think so.
I don't know, maybe Joe's been watching Breaking Bad. He's money laundering the money there.
He's
He's
cooking
taking
the
a crash
definitely
course in
cooking the
math
books.
this week while he's on vacation.
he's cooking the books and he's our boss.
I'm just saying.
Dangerous. Who hired that guy? Kansas City and Baltimore. We're going to play against the number. We're also going to play the total if we're interested. We have less to choose from. We're not going to break out the prop bets and stuff like that though until the Super Bowl, which we'll have plenty of those prop bets. Kansas City at Baltimore. Cannot wait for this game. The two top quarterbacks in the NFL for my money. Baltimore is a 4-point favorite at home against Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs. How are we feeling about this game, Blankers?
I'm feeling if you give Patrick Mahomes 4 points, it's hard to bet against Patrick Mahomes. And Baltimore may end up winning a close game, but if you tell me that Mahomes is going to get 4 points, I'm all about that. I think both teams, no matter how good their defense has been all year, I think they're going to be in the upwards of 20s. I like the over, and I actually like Kansas City taking the points.
Interesting. Brian, where do you stand on this one?
I don't have a strong lean on the line there, but I would lean Baltimore. Just what we've seen from Baltimore's defense over, especially the second half of the season. It's been one of the best defenses in league
Don't
history.
sleep on Kansas City.
I know, but I mean, what have we talked about? What have we talked about with Kansas City all year? Is that the offense is taking a step back. Certainly, if you have Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes in fantasy, you've seen how far their numbers have dropped back. So, It's hard to ever convince myself that betting against Mahomes is absolutely the right play. But if I had to put money down on, I would take the Baltimore side with -4.
Joe Thuney's out for this game. Their offensive lineman, who's like a big piece of their offensive line.
I think it's
Tony, not going to play Uni. Also, Mike Edwards, Isaiah Pacheco, Kadarius Toney, and the great Willie Gay are all questionable for this
Boy,
game.
they need Pacheco.
I think they need Willie Gay.
That too, yeah.
Can
I say this?
I
real
love
quick, though?
Baltimore's team, man. Like, I don't see Baltimore losing this game. I think they covered the number. I had them winning by 6, so I don't feel like terrific about it. And again, I don't want to like bet against Mahomes. I feel like we have to when we have 4 things to play. I feel like we have to pull the trigger on something.
Yeah.
If I had to pull the trigger, I wouldn't play this game normally. But if I had to pull the trigger, I would actually play the Baltimore, give it the 4 points.
I'm fine whichever way you. I was just going to say, I before you even said it, I'll say whichever way you guys want to go. I get it, and I'm fine with it. I would just say this. Last week, the one thing, no matter when you said Kansas City's defense, but the one thing that bothered me was Kansas City had a really tough time stopping the run last week, and Kansas City's going to have to try and stop a way better run attack, I think, this week.
I'm sure you've seen it by now, but everyone this week has been talking about how during the time that Steve Spagnuolo has been the defensive coordinator with the Chiefs, no team in the NFL has allowed more rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
Which, I don't know, Lamar's kind of good at that.
Poncho says Swifties go down and be more. Book it. Yeah, this feels like the end of the ride.
So that's fine.
For Taylor Swift. Let's go small, though, on it because we're pretty torn on it. It's $25.
That's fair.
For,
what do you guys feel about the over?
Baltimore, I love the over.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. I'll take the over.
I love the over. I think this is a game where there's points that are going to be scored. I know that their defenses are higher ranked than their offenses, but playoffs, you kind of open up the book a little bit more. You're more willing to do things. Plus, whenever you trail late in games, you're going to be a little bit more risky to try to get back into it, which leads to more points, maybe against you. Maybe it's a pick 6. Maybe it's whatever. I actually like the total on this quite a bit. I have it as a 30-24 game, 54 points total. The number is at 44.5.
I could go as much as 40. I really believe that this is going to be both teams are going to score points in this game. I just don't have any question about that. I feel very strongly this could be another shootout.
Okay. B-Mac, how do you feel about this? Same?
Yeah, I'm fine with the over. I'm
50?
fine with the over.
I thought 40.
It's unanimous.
That's fine.
And we
50?
only have
Yeah, yeah.
3 games left to play on the year. Let's put a little 50. Scared
Okay.
money scared money ain't ever make money.
That's right.
Is that how it goes?
Something like
Made
that.
no money?
I have no swag
I think
at all.
it's no.
Scared
I just
money-
exposed
scared
myself
money
for
don't
lack of
make
swag.
money.
Yeah.
Scared money don't make money. There we go. I'm not cool at all.
No, you have no riz.
I'm not cool at all. I have 0 riz. No one expects that of me. If you did, that's your fault. Detroit at San Francisco. San Francisco's giving 7.5 points. It's a big number in a conference title game. How do you feel, blank man?
I actually think Detroit can cover that. I think San Francisco is going to win the game. I think it's going to be closer than that. I think San Francisco at home, and depending on the weather, I was going to ask you, did we check the weather in both of these games?
I didn't. San Francisco's usually pretty good, though.
Yeah,
right?
last week it wasn't, and that really affected everything. But as long as they're not going to have another downpour monsoon, then I think San Francisco is going to win by a touchdown. That's the way I saw it. So I think Detroit can cover the number, but I think San Francisco wins the game.
They play in Santa Clara, right?
Yeah, Santa Clara.
Let me pull it up. Brian, as you give your take on this game.
Yeah, I'm with Joel. I would take the Lions side of this to cover. I was leaning San Francisco just because of how poor Jared Goff has played on the road historically, especially since joining the Lions. But after seeing what the Lions did last week to the Buccaneers, like how consistently they were able to get pressure on Baker Mayfield, and of course then seeing how poorly Brock Purdy played through most of that game against Green Bay, I think the Lions defense is going to be able to disrupt the 49ers. This game is going to stay fairly tight, and I would take the Lions to cover the 7.5.
Weather's fine. It's not. It's gonna be like a little bit cloudy, but low winds, no rain,
No precipitation?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's
it's
good.
fine. And then in Baltimore, there's calling for a little bit of rain on Sunday. High of 49,
snow.
low
Oh,
of
wow.
40, and a little bit of rain.
That favors Baltimore, doesn't it?
I think it does.
Yeah.
Probably advantageous to the running attack. Yeah, I would think that does favor Baltimore.
Plus-
You would
plus-
think lower points though.
Plus, Mahomes, if it was like snowy, that Kansas City's used to playing in that. Baltimore doesn't seem to play in that enough to where I would give Mahomes in a big game the edge of playing in bad weather.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect. It doesn't really affect me a whole lot. I think it actually favors Baltimore. Now it might bring down my confidence in the total, but who cares? Scare money ain't make no
Right.
money.
You said with so much riz.
So what are we feeling on the
I
game itself?
I actually like the San Francisco side of this. I think San Francisco kind of rolls. I feel like they control this game, but y'all outvoted me. So y'all we played Detroit plus 7.5. Y'all picked the prize.
Well, then
the
if we're not in
stakes.
agreement, we'll go 25 again.
Yeah, 25 is fine.
All right, Detroit plus 7.5, $25. The total in this game is 51.5. How do you feel about that?
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
I love the under. I have this game at
Two good
27-17.
defenses. Yeah,
I would tend to go under as well.
And
look,
this,
you're talking about a game quarterbacked by Brock Purdy and Jared Goff,
Yeah.
and like I
No one
just
needs
talked
this
about
game
Goff's
more than
bad
Brock
on the
Purdy.
road.
He might press. He might turn it over. You don't know.
but
Yeah,
when they
I would-
score,
I would
how do
bet
they
the
score?
under.
Like they don't like. I know that they have these explosive offenses, but Lamar Jackson's capable of a 50-yard touchdown run. Happens like that. Pat Mahomes is capable of a 48-yard strike. Happens like that. Detroit, they're methodical. San Francisco, I mean, I know they have Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey
pretty
can-
Especially,
methodical.
break out.
with Debo banged up.
Yeah. So, like, and he's expected to play,
He's
but
expected
banged
to
up.
play, but he's banged up.
I just wanted to mention that he was expected to play, but banged up. I think that both of these offenses, even when they're rolling, they eat up clock. They eat up
I agree with
time
that.
of possession. That means less possessions in the game.
I mean,
I'm
Dan
a big
Campbell's
fan of the
talking
under.
about bite kneecaps. He's certainly
Well,
going to want to try to
isn't
cut
Purdy
off the
a game
clock.
manager? Game managers do exactly that. They get the ball out to they sustain drives. They don't do a whole lot to be heroic. I think this is an underplay.
So we're all on the under. You want to go 50 on this one too? Kind of.
Might as well.
Yeah, might as well. All right.
Scared money don't make money.
Baltimore -4, 25 on that. Detroit plus 7.5, 25 on that. Over in the Baltimore-Kansas City game of 44.5 for 50. Under in the Detroit-San Francisco game of 51.5 for $50. That is Beezy money with the Killer Bees as we hand out winners each and every week. Poncho said, he said the Super Bowl is rigged. Follow the storylines. Ravens beat the Niners. Have you noticed that the Super Bowl logos have kind of featured the team's colors that have played in their
Joe
Super Bowls
said
the
if we
last
get
couple of years?
Niners-Ravens and hit on the color scheme again, he's going to bet it next year ahead of time.
Yeah. Now there's more. I mean, more than one team wears red.
Sure.
So that's going to be a little
And
difficult
more
to
than
do.
one team wears purple.
And Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough to do.
But of the Final Four, you have Kansas City and San Francisco for the red.
Yeah, and then you have so they can. Well, there's only one purple left though, so it would have to be Baltimore and San Francisco. So if the NFL is rigged, there you go. All right, 713-780-ESPN. When we return, it's our Car Wreck of the Day presented by CarWreckTexas.com. And on Fridays, it's always the mean things you say to us. It's the Killer Bees on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. All right, the Car Wreck of the Day presented by CarWreckTexas.com. Every Friday are all the mean things that you say to us. Whether it's mean text, whether it's the mean Twitches, whether it's the mean calls, whether it's the mean YouTubes. Wait, those don't exist there. It's a nice place on the internet, the YouTube. Also, it's like mean things that other people say about other people. Like this one, I don't know. Did you put this one in here, Blinkers?
Yeah.
Or Aggie Matt?
Aggie Matt, my longtime buddy.
Aggie Matt. There's a joke there. Josh struggles with basketball like Joel struggles with all sports other than basketball. I didn't see that. When did he say that?
He said that during the Connor and Beard today.
Oh, really?
Aggie Matt.
Did they read it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Josh struggles with basketball like Blanker struggles with all sports other than basketball.
Josh also struggles with stairs.
Josh struggles with
knives.
lots of things.
He struggles with quite a few.
I wonder what he said that made Aggie Matt say this.
I don't know, but I was looking at the second half of the quote more than the first.
Yeah, I'm curious what I'm curious what Josh said that led to Aggie Matt saying this. Aggie, if you're still listening, let us know. But there is some Aggie on Aggie hate here.
Yeah, you're right.
Because Aggie Matt, and Josh says that he's an Aggie. So a little
Some Badger
Aggie
on Aggie hate, too. Just
on
so you know.
Aggie hate. We're doing car wreck of the day early today, by the way, 15 minutes, because we are going to carry Michigan State, Wisconsin coming up in a little bit. Wisconsin, 3.5-point favorite in that game. Do they cover against Sparty?
No.
No? Well, that's some hate right there.
Nope.
That's a mean text.
They're not. I mean, I think
They're
they're
ranked.
overrated. I know, but they're overrated right
Michigan
now.
State ain't great.
Michigan State, they're going to run them into the floor.
This one was directed to me on Twitter. No point in arguing with a pompous bad word who thinks they're the smartest guy in the room.
Now, do you know that's about you, or are you just assuming?
No, it was. I mean, it's in my comments on Twitter.
Okay.
Whenever
it's on
I was
Twitter.
having a conversation with somebody else, and then this guy felt the need to interject when the conversation had nothing to do with him and call me a pompous bad word who thinks I'm the smartest guy in the room. Now, if you had to call me one of those two things that I'm the most of, a pompous bad word or the smartest guy in the room, which of the two would you pick?
Pompous
Bad word. Bad word.
Yeah.
Just a bad word.
I love you guys.
I was going to say, my first thought, well, maybe I should see what the bad word is first, but no. I
No,
got it.
just- we
Yeah,
just
I got
assume
enough.
it'll fit.
I got enough info there.
This isn't the segment for kindness. Branham's voice makes me want to chew glass. It's not very nice. I usually get compliments on my voice, but I actually agree with the mean text. I don't love listening to my voice. My kitchen is dirty. Said Blanker's voice is not entertaining. Respectfully, what does that mean?
How can you say that
don't know.
respectfully?
What does an entertaining voice sound like? I guess Bruce Buffer. Bruce Buffer's got an entertaining voice.
Yeah.
But that's more like PA
Don't do it, though.
introduction.
No, that's Michael
do it.
Buffer. That's Michael Buffer.
No, they both do it.
They probably
they-
both
oh,
have
they're
that
both
If you
competition.
do
litigious?
their catchphrase, it could cost you.
Well, I know the I'm not going to say it, but I know Michael Buffer. He'll sue you if you say it.
Yeah.
He will still sue you.
Yeah, he'll sue you.
Can
Bruce
you do
has
it?
the other one.
Can
I
you
don't
do it on
know
the
if I
radio?
can say it because I'm not trying to make
Oh, no,
any
no.
money off of it right
Can you
now.
say it on the radio?
No, I literally one day we brought him up in a story about that, like he was going to do it for the Super Bowl or something. And Todd came running down the hallway and threw the door open. He goes, "Don't say it. Whatever you do, don't say it."
What was Michael Buffer's catchphrase?
I'm not.
Yeah, nice
you're not
try.
going to get us to say it.
Yeah, nice try, Chief.
Then he say it's HBO.
Something like that.
Isn't that what Michael Buffer said? And then
Sure.
Bruce Buffer said, "It's about that time." Brian was not. Brian got too this week. He's
did
been
I?
with us many days. BMAC most definitely is the comic store guy on The Simpsons. I
don't know who that
it's
is.
Been I haven't watched The Simpsons in years. Is that accurate?
That character's very nerdy, and he's kind of a actually guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's very nitpicky and like looks down upon others who don't get the same comic book references that he does. Which I don't know if I don't think I look down on anybody else, but that's fine.
33838.
It's funny regardless.
I can't read that one. 3338. Couple of more here. By Bobby Slow. That was somebody being mean to Bobby Slowick by calling him just Bobby Slow. Like he's not very smart. He's slow. Bobby Slow. Jake Myers is not the answer. We need an outfielder. Jordan is too fragile. Those are boring. Listening to Branham's voice hurts me worse than the Hopkins trade.
Is that the same number as the first one?
I didn't confirm.
I bet you it was.
So you're the
Probably.
sports radio equivalent of David Anderson? Or David Anderson.
Messed up. David
Who?
Johnson.
David Johnson.
David
Thank
Johnson.
you. I
The-
said David
the
Anderson, another former
receiving
Texan.
player in the Hopkins trade. My voice got. I guess we couldn't call them strays. My voice has been ridiculed twice
Yeah,
this
it's not
week.
I got
strays.
one,
They're
and I'm not a fan
aimed
of my
directly
voice
at
either.
you.
Yeah. Pat Mahomes' dad said, "I hope not," when asked if he is sitting with Taylor Swift, Brittany Mahomes, and Jason Kelsey this weekend.
Well, you're offended by that.
Not only am I offended by this, but I think this kills all sorts of team chemistry. There's no reason that Pat
Now the
Mahomes'
Chiefs
dad
won't
should be
win?
saying this. I don't think so.
Mm.
This ruins all of the good vibes that Kansas City had going. T. Swift in the booth, Jason Kelsey hopping out of the booth. All of the vibes were immaculate. And now Pat Mahomes' dad screws
Did
it
you
up.
see the video of
by
the one
ridiculing
time
him.
that Mahomes' wife gave Taylor Swift the hug, and Mahomes' dad turned around and looked like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" He's a longtime baseball pitcher for the Twins and multiple teams. Mets.
Was he? Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he ever a Ranger?
I don't think so. I don't know.
You were delusional. This is to me. You were delusional, and those were obvious things. Nothing you should try and take credit for. I'm sure I was being very serious.
That was at you?
Yeah, I'm sure I was being very serious whenever I was trying to take credit for that. Ask Joe George's dumb bad word. I'm sure he has a solution. He worked one day this week and gets a mean text. How about that?
6133 said, Killer Bees suck. Just kidding. Love you guys. Can never say a bad thing about you two.
Well, that's the wrong segment. We saved
You
that
said we suck.
We saved that for other days.
Thanks, Willie P. I liked it.
We saved that for other things. All right, thanks so much to Abigail Bryan for doing the hard work for that slacker Joe. He's blank. I'm Branham. Have a great weekend. Stay dry. We'll talk to you on Monday. Big Ten basketball up next on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.